Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news discussion and, of course, a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works in the Cosmere. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
Hey, I'm your writer.
Also joining us is Evgeni.
Hello, Shardcast! Did I peek?
No, the microphone does well.
It.
No. It's not going to. It's not going to.
No, I am ruined.
This is the best money I've ever spent with the Shards Patreon money. Anyway, also joining us is Ala.
Hi, I'm Rasarr. It has been a while.
Okay, well, that introduced a lot of extra noise of Getty, so thanks a lot. Thank you for audio listeners. Go on Discord and make sure you ping at Argent if that blew out your eardrums, okay? I'll do my best. Make sure he knows in particular. Last but not least is Adim.
Hey, I'm X on the Discord.
Hell yeah. And I'm Chaos, and today we are talking about the best homeboy, Adolin.
Woo. So,
Wind and Truth spoilers. Let's get on into it because Adolin had a huge arc in this book. Like he had tons of word count in this book, and that was great.
It was like this big, his arc.
As opposed to this big for others.
It's sort of like the Navani of what Navani was to Rhythm of War, where she wasn't like the flashback character, but she got a lot of the page count.
Yeah, I can see that. Oh, that's a good comparison, yeah.
Honestly, it's a good thing he did because he had like the best arc in this whole book.
He absolutely, absolutely did. Even negative reviews that I keep watching are like, Adolin's pretty good. Yeah,
it's like kind of universally acknowledged as the best part of the book.
Yeah.
Well, not universally. There are some people who didn't enjoy that, but
that's fine. That's gonna happen.
It's pretty predominantly the arc that people enjoy the most.
Yeah.
It's genuinely like still wild to me that the fact that Adolin even is part of the series is kind of like a happy accident on Brandon's part.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah. Because like if you listeners aren't familiar, the reason Adolin is like a character that he is because when Brandon was writing Dalinar's arc in The Way of Kings, he needed someone who would like talk with Dalinar about his like internal conflict. Because like, if I remember correctly, Adolin is like, or like an Adolin-like character is in The Way of Kings Prime.
It's true.
But I don't think he's like a big part of it. I think he might. I did not actually read Way of Kings Prime, but I do remember that something bad happens to one of Dalinar's
I think his name is Arador.
Sure.
Arador.
Great.
But yeah, basically Brandon needed to externalize the doubts about the visions. Because like he needed, like for it to work, Dalinar needed to believe that like they were legit. So it's like he externalized the doubts about them to Adolin. I was thinking about it this morning of like, what am I going to talk about on this Adolin-centric podcast? Adolin's arc in purpose in Way of Kings and Wind and Truth kind of mirror each other somewhat, where it's like Way of Kings, like the whole point is like he's telling Dalinar you're wrong, and Adolin ends up being proved wrong. And in Wind and Truth, he's like telling Dalinar, "Hey, you're wrong," and in Wind and Truth, Adolin turns out to be correct.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting because in some sense also Adolin was correct in Way of Kings. Not about the visions, but definitely about Sadius, right? Mm-hmm. And Dalinar admitted that. But yeah, certainly about the visions and that high level stuff.
Adolin, I haven't thought too hard about what I'm about to say, but I think it generally holds. I think he's like, of the characters in Stormlight who are like we would consider main characters, I think he's the one who is most defined by his relationship with others. Up until this book, at least, because in this book he has more internal stuff that we'll get into, but previously it was like working with Dalinar in the first book, working with Kaladin in the second book, working through his issues with Kaladin in the second book, working through his relationship with Shallan in the third book.
It's a weird way of saying crushing on Kaladin through the second book, but we can move on.
Yeah, and then I guess more Shallan stuff in book 4. But in this book, he got a chance to sort of spread his wings, so to speak, and
he's got
build on some of the stuff. But
Yeah.
he got
I
like
think
a big arc.
it also
Hmm?
it also helps that this is like the first time where he's in an arc without any of the like other main characters.
Yeah.
Because like in Way of Kings, of course, he's with Dalinar. In Words of Radiance, he's with Kaladin and Shallan, and in Oathbringer as well. In Rhythm of War, he's with Shallan all the time. So this is like, and the others have like Adolin has his problems, but the others have like problems. So he kind of always had to play this like support character role to them, and now he gets his own space, and he ends up playing a support character to Yanagon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. But he's also kind of the AD carry of the book, right?
That is true. That is true. I keep thinking like there is a version of Way of Kings out there in the multiverse that doesn't have Adolin because Brandon like didn't like externalize Dalinar's arc. And what a weird series that would have been without him.
Yeah.
Like imagine if we didn't have like. Sorry, you go.
Because like it's interesting because like going back a little like of like Adolin being the support character, like he's the most prominent non-radiant character.
Yeah.
And him being non-radiant like is a huge part of his character, particularly in this book.
Yeah.
I was just going to say on that point, it's nice that we got a non-radiant character. We got Brandon was able to restrain himself from making all of the super big like character arc and like revelations about oneself and everything. He was able to make this one not tied to a radiant oath system, and just make it a normal. Yeah, his character is going through some stuff. He's making tough choices, learning more about himself, but he doesn't have to be progressing through an oath to do it.
And I think this will be more of a character-focused episode. We'll probably do another Unoathed thing, probably sometime. We'll talk about it a bit, probably. But it is so interesting with Adolin because, on one hand, with Wind and Truth, I kind of don't like that all the characters are split up. Like, definitely a part of Oathbringer that I really like is the big climax where everything comes together. Brandon just wanted to do a different thing with a really epic scope. With all these plot lines, and I think it worked out pretty well for me, but I can definitely see why someone's disappointed that they're not interacting. But at the same time, you're totally right that this gives Adolin a chance to we really get to dig into Adolin, because for like Oathbringer, right? Part 1, Adolin's a big role in part 1 of Oathbringer, but it's all from Shallan's POV. Like, we only get Adolin POVs once they're in Shadesmar, and Adolin's like, oh, I'm actually really small, right? I was this powerful person, and now the world's changing. We did get, some Adolin in Words of Radiance with the duels, which was fun, but this is far more significant. Since Shallan and Adolin like got together, right? It's been very much like Shallan in the driver's seat and Adolin being kind of the support character. So it is kind of nice to have Adolin, be his own character here fully and have a big plot arc.
It's interesting to think of him as like this characters that other characters bounce off of a lot of the times, right? And even like you mentioned the duels, I cannot remember the canonical name for the 4-on-1, the fixed brawl, fixed brawl, fixed.
Yeah.
Hold up, I will commit this to memory. It was something.
The
fixed.
only thing I ever remember is the remark
Fixed brawl.
simplicity, which is Mistborn.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know this had a name until it came up somewhere else, and I was like, wait, that has a name?
I think it was named in this book.
It was named in this book, yes.
Oh, okay.
Although it's not proper noun, so Anyway, fixed brawl. Even there, like Adolin's role is mostly to observe Kaladin being shady and breaking a shard plate with his legs, and everyone's like, yeah, that's normal. People do that all the time. So it's definitely like I agree. In many ways, this was Adolin's book in the way that Rhythm of War was Navani's, and I think that's neat.
Yeah, because it's also giving him the chance to like be the hero. Because like, hey, he goes up against a Thunderclast and wins. He loses a foot as a consequence because he's not a Radiant. He's not equipped to fight a Thunderclast. But compare that to the ending of Oathbringer, where like he really doesn't do anything. It's all the Radiants doing stuff.
Renarin's like, no, don't fight the Thunderclast. I'm going to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the topic of losing the foot, it sort of also foreshadows the end of Wind and Truth, because it's sort of set, or at least to me, it was set up like, oh, he lost the foot. That's pretty, that's going to be really tough for him to make it through the last day. But once that happens, they can bring in a Truth Washer, heal up his leg, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you're like, man, it really sucks that they don't have Stormlight. And then at the end of the book, it's like, oh, it really sucks they don't have Stormlight.
It really sucks.
It
that they
really-
don't have Stormlight.
It truly did not occur to me until it's like, oh, all the Stormlight's gone. Oh, right. We're not going to heal that, because certainly during the book, like, oh yeah, we'll fix it. We'll go to your theory. It'll be fine.
It is still not impossible, right? I just don't think that's where the story is going.
No,
but
I
theoretically,
don't think
you can have, someone else gate Adolin to Eurythera, where they have access to Tower Light, they have access to their abilities, and they can fix that problem. But it would not be a good story to write.
No. Brandon's not going to undo the loss of leg. Man, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about the day 7, the Thunderclast, that whole sequence there in Azimir, and man, it's totally fair for some people to dislike parts of Wind and Truth, but man, I love that part of the book. I think it is fantastic and so stressful. I love it a lot.
The
Fun
Azimir
fact.
plotline was so good.
Yeah.
Fun fact. This is going to be meaningless by the time this episode comes out, but at the
Perfect.
moment, the April art poll is still going on, and Adolin versus Thunderclast is the current
Hell yeah.
winner.
It is so cool with the Thunderclast because of Oathbringer, where Adolin couldn't fight the Thunderclast, and so that made it really juicy in a character way. It's like, oh crap, there's a Thunderclast, and actually dealing with it, and so that was such a perfect way to do it.
And like it also like shows progress in world of like they have been fighting Thunderclasts. Like they know the strategies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
The
now
ambiguous
Adolin
number
like
of
has to do it
Thunderclasts.
by himself.
An ambiguous number of yeah.
Yeah.
But it's Wind and Truth is in many ways calling back to previous books. I think not as much as I would like. I think some characters have arcs that are a little not necessarily out of
left
nowhere.
field.
I mean, sure. The Thunderclast thing, echoes Oathbringer really, really nicely. Down to like, not just the fact that it's Adolin v Thunderclast, but also the what's his face?
Mask.
Yeah.
The guy whose child Adolin saved in
Yeah.
in Thaylen City, and he's around.
Yeah, this arc was quite fun in that it kind of felt like Way of Kings level combat. Like there were more magical abilities, but for the most part, there's dire forms. There's not a lot of fused for most of it, right? and
And dire forms are fairly like straightforward combatants.
they're
They
big
are
guys.
they are the war form of the
The
forms of power.
Regals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked how that felt more like Battle of the Tower, where like, I got dudes with shard blades and shard plate, and we're not just having the shard blades do crazy things, like changing forms and
Maya kind of does that, like a little
well, I
bit.
guess she does.
Yeah.
I guess actually Maya's just not in most of it because she just leaves.
No, that is also true.
So I
That is
guess
true.
he's not even using a shard blade. It's
Yeah.
just like he's using plate.
Adolin is swinging a hammer and sometimes a guy.
Yeah, that scene where he like
That's cool.
runs like straight through the Oathgate platform and back out the other end, and it's like beats a guy, like uses a guy as a weapon until he's like reduced to paste. Listen,
The power of Shard
I
Plate
think-
right there.
I think Brandon alluded to the fight with Abidi being his favorite fight scene to write ever, or something to that effect.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't think
Sort
we
of
actually
speculate.
know that. I think we speculate that because he said, "Oh, I wrote a fight scene that I'm really happy with. Maybe my best fight scene."
Mm.
I don't think we actually know what fight scene that is. I don't think he's ever said.
I do suspect
but a lot
it
of
is
us
this
assume.
one,
Yeah.
just based off the timing.
Speaking of like the arc as a whole, it's also like it feels different from the other arcs because it's kind of predictable.
Sure.
Like going into it, like it's just like we just have to wait 3 days. Those aren't comments.
Something's going to happen.
3 days.
Yeah.
As soon as it gets mentioned, like the specific like whoever holds the throne in the throne room holds the city. Like it's going to come down to a fight in the throne room.
Throne room fight. Yep.
There aren't huge twists like there are like in some of the other plot lines. It just works and is fun and is interesting, and you don't care that you know how it's going to end, but you just want to see how it's going to end.
Yeah, a predictable story that is well executed is, oftentimes a lot better than an unpredictable one. That's kind of us.
Yep.
Yeah, and I still think there were like fun moments that you could see coming, but the example that comes to mind is, we need to break into the palace. Well, we'll have Gawx do it. And I was like, yes, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want. Which obvious in
loved
retrospect,
that.
but that was so perfect.
Yep.
We need a thief.
I think the only thing that could have been better there is if they had like climbed up a wall and gotten in
Yeah.
through a window, just like he did originally.
Yeah.
I don't know if Adolin would be able to participate in
That's
if that were the
probably
He would have needed a double dose of fire moss and be fine.
case.
I mean, they had fused
The
flying around,
logistics.
so
But yeah, like it's very, and like the whole plot line with Maya is very Gandalf, Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Look for my coming at the dawn of the 3rd or 5th day. I don't remember which it
I
is.
guess 3rd. Yeah,
I think it's fair.
but you're totally
that's
right.
just very biblical, and also like I always want to say 5th.
Sure, right. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, we have the power of global
You have the power.
communication.
I'm gonna put my
Come
money
to my
down on
coming.
5th.
Look to my. I think it's 5th. Yeah, light of the 5th day.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Hmm.
I do think that this plot line used the day structure very effectively, that it made it very tense. Like, it's so bad in day 7 when they get out and it's like, we can't make it to day 10. We're just so screwed. And I think this is where the day structure actually really shined. It didn't really feel very repetitive to me. I think Brandon varied up the fights pretty significantly as we went along. And so I constantly was like, oh no, what's happening with Adolin? Oh crap.
Yes, there were unique parts to it, but also like that is the one plot line where being repetitive like is kind of the point. They just have to hold.
It's a reverse siege, right?
Yeah.
But it's like it has that attritive aspect, right? So that you want it to feel attritive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like initially, okay, wait 3 days. And then, there was some 5th element or something that slowed down the column. Now, and then eventually, okay, we're going to be giving some kids some spears and throw them in the front lines.
Yeah. I do want to call out specifically on this note that the Shattered Plains arc should have felt the same way. Because that's also, hey, this is a siege, we have to survive, or we have to hold, 6 days or 7 days or whatever the number ends up being. It didn't, right? Yeah. And we don't need to get into why that is, because that's a whole other aspect of the book. But it's an interesting example, perhaps, of, this is kind of the same story that works in one place and doesn't work in another.
I feel like a lot of it is just page count, right?
Maybe page count, maybe, Adolin just carries a plot better than Sigzil does.
I mean...
Well, I think it's also I honestly could have seen more, would have been happy to have more of this, but one thing that Brandon does pretty quickly with the Azimir plotline is he established, and I think part of it is because he needs to set up some people to become unoathed.
Sure,
but
right.
he establishes a lot of like sort of throws out some names, like one of them's May Aladar, which you may get to.
We'll talk about the side characters,
and, you know, Notum and all that, but then just random Azish folks who, you know, we've never heard of before, who are going to be important, but we get like a tiny bit of characterization, just enough to get us invested in them surviving the subsequent siege. And I think that really helps Adolin because it gives him some people, different people to work off of who have different dynamics with him. Some of them who already hate him, some of them who look up to him and all that. And so I think that's one of the reasons that for me, the Azimir plotline worked.
Yeah, it's kind of a like Adolin's arc works as a discrete like novella almost, whereas like the Shattered Plains doesn't work as like, if you just like cut out all of those chapters and put them together, I don't think they would work as well as taking all the Adolin chapters and putting them together.
Yeah. I think
and just reading straight through.
I know we weren't like supposed to be getting into the Shattered Plains plotline, but like
but we are.
Welcome to Shardcast. This is, you know, Tangent is our middle name.
I regret everything.
So I feel like the difference is that in Adolin plotline, things kind of follow each other in a natural way. Like you said before, we're waiting for reinforcements. Oh no, the reinforcements are delayed. Oh no, the reinforcements were not reinforcements after all. Oh no, now everything is going wrong and they are in the city. In the Shattered Plains plotline, it's like Venli is walking and Sigzil is doing the defense and Venli is still walking.
Yeah, but I don't count Venli at, like when I say Shattered Plains arc, I don't. I mean,
she is like integral to the end of that plotline, so I would count her personally.
But like, she kind of like comes in at the end, but like it's like the Shattered Plains plotline and Venli's plotline merge at the end, but still like the Shattered Plains is the battle.
Yeah, like so like, and even like, okay, like we were all like memeing on Dami at the time, but like Dami gets like no introduction whatsoever compared to like the Azimir cast.
Yeah.
So it's another element that kind of comes out of nowhere. Dami is like mentioned once, and then when Dalinar is like considering succession, and the next time we see him is when he gets like Pacific rimmed onto the battlefield.
I love that description. That's exactly what happens.
True though.
That was a good. That was cool, but yeah,
it's interesting to think about the side characters because not only are the side characters in Azimir here to set up Unoathed, which absolutely they are, but Adolin's got to like, I got to win over people because that's what we got to do in an Adolin plotline, whereas Sigzil doesn't need to do that, and so it's just not maybe as interesting in that respect. But
I would also say like comparatively because you know we maybe it's gonna be different to someone who's like binging the series for the first time, but for us it's been like literally years since we've last met a lot of those characters in Sigzil's plotline, like all the bridgemen and various generals, etc. So like the Azimir cast kind of benefits from the fact that we get introduced to them like properly, whereas Brandon just kind of assumes that we already know who all these Shattered Plains characters are. So I know, at least maybe it wasn't like that for the rest of you, but for me at least it just felt like there were names.
I mean, a lot of them were just names, right? But we did get to spend a little bit of time with Scar in day one. We got a little bit of time with Leighton in day one. Obviously, we got a little bit of time with like Lopen, maybe a couple of the others.
I literally was trying to think of the one who died. I'm like, I just could not remember his name. So sorry, Leighton, but literally couldn't remember.
Rip Leighton.
It's interesting. Maybe we will do a Shattered Plains thing. I didn't hate it, but it definitely wasn't impactful to me, I guess.
It was like my second least favorite plotline in the book, admittedly.
Yeah. Tying into the, like, in a way that will maybe get us back to Azimir, tying into like differences. One thing that worked with well, I don't know if I would even say it worked with Azimir. One thing that I feel like hurt the Shattered Plains part that didn't really hurt the Azimir part was the like villain that each side was facing. So like we had L, which I was looking forward to in the book, but he ended up not really doing anything. And then in Azimir we had Abidi, and I never really like liked him as a character or like found him interesting, but I felt like the lack of a compelling villain in the Azimir plot and the Adolin plotline didn't really hurt it as much as it hurt the Shattered Plains for me. And I think part of that is because Adolin had a really compelling conflict that was unrelated to Abidi, where he was like going through the oaths and promises and the Dalinar stuff, which provided conflict without having to have a, without having a Rabonial level antagonist.
Yeah, but like also Abidi is like doing things. You like see him do things throughout this plotline. Like he shows up even if he's just styling on Adolin a little bit. And L
shows up twice.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just my memory misleading me, but I feel like L, like he's chats with Venli once or twice, and that's all he does. Whereas Abidi like actually feels like he's doing things. But maybe this is just the memory of like that final confrontation overriding everything.
The
else,
words
right?
you are saying are accurate. However, Abidi is doing things, but he's a wet noodle.
Yeah, so
he sucks as a character.
Yeah,
I want to.
He does do things though.
To my recollection, Abidi shows up once in Shadesmar, where he gets absolutely clowned on by Adolin. He then shows up in a surprise attack during the dome defense thing, where Adolin's like, oh, they're trying to distract me, they're trying to hide something from me, and he like jumps out of the dire forms and ambushes Adolin and gets clowned on again. Shows up a third time where like in Adolin's like ditch defense thing, where Adolin looks out into the distance and sees Abidi don his shard plate. And then shows up the fourth time in the throne battle, where he gets absolutely clowned on.
No, you're missing one, which is he rocks up into the infirmary and then sees Tom stand up and go, and then runs away.
And he runs like a little
Abidi gets
girl.
clowned on 4 out of 5 times.
Okay, listen, he shows up 5 times and gets clowned on every time. He still does more in the plot than L.
I guess for me, L still feels cool because, again, the Shattered Plains plotline was more about the overall tactics and stuff. It wasn't like pinned on, we are opposing L. It was more like the generic, like, Odium's forces. And L summoned a Shardblade to kill. Like, there's some cool stuff for L. Whereas Abidi, not cool. Like as soon as he appeared, I'm like, oh god, this guy.
Yeah. Okay, I will say I kind of disagree because, like, for me, I want to like L, but he's got like nothing. He is giving us nothing in this.
He has vibes.
His vibes are so good. His vibes are so good.
Really, aura, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, aura farming is, I think, the modern term.
Aura farming. No, so I think one of the differences between Abidi and L is that, and the 2 arcs, right, Azir and Shattered Plains, is that Abidi has an active role in the reverse siege and just repeatedly fails. L, we don't actually see do anything. Like, presumably he's commanding the army, but maybe he's not. Who knows? Maybe he's just vibing there. And because he's not doing anything, he's not failing. And we see him do things like once or twice, which is he grants Venli her request at the end,
which causes him to fail, to be clear. Well, in a way.
Yes, he gets outplayed in a way, but it's like I know that people kind of meme a little bit on how didn't he notice this, or how didn't he like foresee that this would happen. I don't think he cares that much, and 2, I don't think the Venli's plan was that obvious from the perspective of Odium's forces. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not arguing that. Just like if we are comparing like Abidi and L did not technically win the Shattered Plains either.
Yeah, well, it's like L loses with grace, and it's like, oh, that's clever. I like that you did that. Abidi, it just gets clowned on. Like,
I will agree
Abidi
with
is a
that.
joke, whereas L is not treated as a joke for not seeing that.
Yeah,
Come.
right. Abidi is like, I'm gonna drink the blood of the Radiance, and he says it way too many times, especially
Well,
when he's
I
getting.
think he bathes in the blood of the
Sorry,
actually.
sorry.
Yeah.
But like, it's way. He's so over the top, silly for getting clowned on so much. Which, to be fair, I do like the characterization that. Oh, how did he survive town? He just ran away, which is like that's legitimately like funny and in character and things. But
And it
like, I
also
don't take him
makes
seriously.
Makes him more. Not that Adolin isn't a very capable character. Showing Abidi get clowned on that, like he doesn't. He's not as threatening as L is, or like Raboniel is. Like if Raboniel or L had been in charge of that siege, like Adolin would not have succeeded. But like,
Yeah.
Abidi like
Think of
would underestimate the non-radiant.
Yeah. Speaking of Raboniel, it's kind of funny how like this is the second book now in a row that Brandon did like this pairing of you have one intelligent fused who is an antagonist and one extremely stupid fused who keeps getting clowned on by one of the male characters.
I actually wanted to ask you guys, who is lamer, Lesian or Abidi? And I need to know.
I think it's clearly Abidi.
Listen, Lesian at least gets a cool moment like at the start of the book before
That's
Kaladin
true.
starts clowning on him.
Yeah.
He
That's
like
true.
gets a cool like fight scene and where Kaladin heads to.
He was pretty scary
You know.
in that first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, early on when he like latches onto Kaladin's back and just repeatedly severs his spine, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that's how you kill someone who can heal. You just
Right.
permanently
That'll do it.
paralyze
Or
them.
like even in like his later appearances, like he's still like intimidating and it's tense.
Yeah, that's sort of
Whereas
like,
Abidi is always kind of like, really?
it was it was a weird choice in my opinion to have Abidi be a fused brand that we're very familiar with, a heavenly one, but then B, make it so that he can't even fly. So like at least Lesian had a cool power that Kaladin
That
had
he
to
kept.
sort of familiarize himself
Sure.
with to beat him.
I will say, Abidi in the throne room fight, when he's basically toying with Adolin, I do think Abidi was like, I was definitely very worried for Adolin there. I don't like Abidi as an antagonist, like he's way over the top, but it kind of works. Like that part of it, even though he's so silly, like I don't dislike the book for that. Like it actually kind of worked for me.
Yeah. Abidi like as a character, he like fits the plot line.
Yeah.
Like he's like just this big dumb obstacle that Adolin has to overcome alongside all the other big, more or less dumb obstacles.
I think something that I keep coming back to, and maybe I shouldn't, maybe it doesn't matter, but like lately I've been thinking about character arcs in the context of like who else is present in the scene or in the arc and what purpose do they serve, right? So if we are putting May Aladar in the same city as Adolin Kholin, why is she there instead of like some unnamed or brand newly invented Alethi scribe? And she has a purpose, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, so why is Abidi the villain in this arc instead of some other character, some other fused brand? And the thing that I cannot come to a satisfying answer to is, what do we benefit in this arc from having kind of a over the top villainous heavenly one who cannot do heavenly one things? Like, I don't think we'd lose much if we replaced Abidi with a different newly invented villain. And because we wouldn't lose much, that means we are not gaining much by having him. So like, I think he is a poor antagonist for Adolin's story because he doesn't really, like, he doesn't bring anything out of Adolin. He's not really a challenge for Adolin. There's no chemistry between them, which I don't love.
Like,
will
there's
say
also
go.
there's something to be said that like we saw some number of Shanaeum like switch sides at the end of Rhythm of War, like turn away from Odium with Leshwi. So like this is kind of like the counterpoint of like, no, but some Shanaeum still do suck and are totally on board with.
Okay.
Flying powers are Brandon's favorite, so I think we shouldn't necessarily be surprised if he defaults to the flying fused.
It's book
But he also-
5. Can we not do defaults anymore?
I think like being the default was kind of the point, because like we've talked before, this is a very simple arc from like a structural standpoint.
Mhm.
So we have a simple antagonist, and like the reason he's not using his Shanaim powers that often is simply because Adolin can't fly. I think that's like the entire reason that Abidi isn't flying, is because then Brandon would have to come up with Adolin having some kind of anti-air capacity.
Yeah, it's basically like he needed to be nerfed to make the fight between him and Adolin believable at the end.
That's exactly what it is. And I think he needed to be Shanaim to make the attack in day one be a surprise attack for that to like actually work. So it needed to be the flying fused there to make that work. And then I also think him being over the top, I think what that's doing is to help build up to the town moment, right? Where he's like this merciless piece of crap who's going to, yeah, he would totally kill everyone in the infirmary, right? He would do that. And
yeah, but you can imagine Raboniel doing the same thing, and she wouldn't be twirling her mustache as she does it.
Sure, but what I'm saying is it's so good for such a jackass to get his comeuppance, right? And so in that sense, you're like,
Yeah.
Yes, I'm so glad town is getting up in this moment.
I'm actually going to disagree with you, Evgeni, because Raboniel would have prioritized far more important things than like to kill the sick and wounded who are already not fighting. Abidi did it because he's a petty.
Right. So what I mean is, like, I think she could have done it if there was like a strategic value in like demoralizing the enemy or something like that. Like, I agree that for her it would have been, but like, I don't think she would hold back from killing civilians.
Oh, absolutely not. But that's not the issue. It's like they're already out of the fight, basically. So it's like, we're going to go kill those civilians over there who could stand up and fight back before killing the invalids.
Honestly, I think it's just like, if you look like at an overall picture, Brandon just doesn't have very good like fused antagonists.
That's certainly
Notum and
true.
Dragonia. Like, because like, what do we have? Leshwi isn't really an antagonist. She's like a rival, and she doesn't even do anything in this book anyway.
But she's interesting.
Accurate.
She's been
interesting, but I wouldn't qualify her as an antagonist.
Absolutely.
She is like way too into this whole rivalry thing
Yeah.
she has with Kaladin.
She's still stuck in the enemies phase of enemies to lovers.
Yeah,
Yes.
and unfortunately for her, she will be stuck there for a while.
She will be stuck there forever.
The Raboniel, she is the best of the fused antagonists. I have made it clear in the past that I don't think Brandon did her justice, and I don't like her as an antagonist, but whatever. Lesian gets a cool introduction and then gets reduced to Kaladin's stress ball. And then Abidi he's a clown. He like comes into the book already wearing the clown makeup.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna kill you all. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
Brandon just
think-
doesn't.
I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Because like the fused have lived for thousands of years. They're not doing great mentally, most of them. So it's like they are like, so it like makes sense that like there are fused like Abidi and Lesian who are more cartoonish because they're like
Yeah.
they're not losing their humanity because they're not humans, but they're losing their
Personhood.
singerness, like their personhood. Like they are becoming caricatures of themselves.
Right, but like even L, like we've talked, L is just aura farming throughout all his appearances so far,
Mhm.
and
And
just
he can farm
I don't know,
me
I
all
think-
day.
I just don't think Brandon like has made a good fused antagonist character yet, and it's a little bit sad since they are supposed to be like your, aside from Odium himself, the fused are supposed to be like the big evil characters.
I would agree with that. They're not as dangerous.
And I wonder if that is partially the point, right?
Mhm.
Because describing them, so it strikes me as really apt to describe them as caricatures of themselves, because that's also what happens to the heralds.
Mhm.
And for very like realmatically mechanical reasons, right? Which is an interesting way to think about cognitive shadows, but that's neither here nor there. And so I think maybe you run a risk making your 10,000 year, like 7,000, 8,000 years old characters be the most compelling characters. I think you want them to be kind of weird. In fact, I think they should be more weird.
Probably should be more
I
weird.
think one of Abidi, like I think one of the ways to fix Abidi is to make him so over the top that like we haven't seen anything that over the top. It's not just
He should have-
I will.
You know what? Thinking about what you're saying, Brandon totally should have shown us a scene of like Abidi actually drinking someone's blood.
Yeah,
That
or
actually
bathing,
would have
or,
been pretty tight, actually. Yeah.
you know,
Like, imagine
Grabbing-
he like goes into that hospital and the way like instead of just seeing him run around, just Ash sees him like tearing into someone and starting to drink them.
Yeah.
Like that would go a long way towards making
Yeah.
him like actually more intimidating.
Yeah.
Because like I get what you're saying with like they are supposed to be like mentally not all there. I just don't think it's very compelling in execution.
I agree. No, I agree that much. Yeah.
I think there's a difference between it making sense in world and being good storytelling, right? But ultimately, memeing on Abidi is hilarious, and I feel like that's the intent, and it worked well enough for the plot line. But I will say I am definitely concerned about future fused antagonists because the track record is not great for sure.
Yeah. So like a part of that also I think is the fused and the singers are not the bad guys of the series. Odium is the bad guy of the series.
I mean, the
He's
fuse
like-
kind of are.
But like they're not to the same extent.
Not to the same
In my
extent.
opinion.
I agree. Yes.
Like they're serving him, but like ostensibly their goals are not like they're just trying to take back their planet. Odium's motivations are more nefarious, and like he's trying to
Sure.
make an army to go conquer everything.
Right.
They've become more twisted over time.
Yeah.
But like Brandon can't make a fused antagonist more intimidating than Odium.
Counterpoint. Odium is too big of a threat to be like a good enemy for like a character level conflict. I think so.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, and I'm trying to come up with a good example, and the best I have is Navani's like a little encounter with fake Gavilar in Spiritual Realm. Fake Gavilar is technically Odium. It's a stand-in for Odium, which was a really good conflict. Like that, Navani versus this Gavilar,
Great scene.
Rabonio was a much more interesting and at times much more terrifying antagonist to Navani than Gavilar Odium ever was. So like, in other words, Odium is, because he's such a huge potential to be, I can destroy the world.
Yeah.
It's because it's a cosmic level threat. It makes the character level conflicts with him or against him less interesting. It's like, yeah, okay, man, you can smite me. That's
I can see that.
that doesn't make for good writing.
I would like Brandon to write a fused antagonist that is actually like antagonistic for more than one book.
Yes. Yeah.
Because like
Yes.
because for now, like our three like active antagonists like Raboniel, Leslie, and Abidi, they've all like, they've died at the end of the same book they've been introduced.
Yeah.
Leshwi stopped being an antagonist after like one book.
Yeah.
And Elle is too busy, having hype moments and aura to be actually
Don't worry,
villainous.
you'll get more Elle for sure, right?
I think Elle is going to be the big bad of Pack 5.
I just wish, we didn't say the exact same thing after Rhythm of War.
Well, that's certainly true. Look, that is very true.
Yeah. I guess like I don't mind because like I do think Raboniel is a good antagonist as a fused. I like having good, like interesting fused villain. And I also like having the clowns. Because like it makes sense in world to me. It adds variety. If like Adolin had just been fighting Raboniel 2.0, I'm like, okay, like we've seen this character already. Having a new crazy guy, I'm like, yeah, I like
honestly, like something that's been on my mind is like Lesian should have survived Rhythm of War and has become like Adolin's antagonist in Wind and Truth.
Oh,
I know it's not a cold take. It's a bit of a hot take, but I do think like Brandon should have let him like stick around for more than one book, because like even Raboniel, like she gets introduced, she gets her moments, she dies, and like that's like 3 of our 4 antagonists, and the 4th one is yet to do anything substantial. So like I'm all for variety, but there should be like more long-running villains. Like Amaram was like problem for like 3 whole books. Like he wasn't like as in your face as, for example, Abidi for most of that time, but like Sadias was an antagonist for 2 whole books and continued to be a problem for the next 2.
Yeah.
And instead, like the fused we keep getting just monster of the week characters.
In this book, literally.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I do think
2 weeks.
This is where book 6 can help a lot, where we're resetting things and we can set like, multiple antagonists to be through several books. I know that doesn't like excuse this book, right? But I'm just saying, I do think there's an opportunity to kind of reset expectations and introduce like a fuse that's in 2 to 3 books and like has an arc. Whereas in this one, Brandon needed a fused who was wacky that we're pretty thrilled that Adolin wrecked at the end of the book, right? But like, yeah.
Right. This was Adolin episode.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what if I call it Adolin and Abidi and we have like another episode that's Renarn and Relaine, and so someone's looking through them like, Wind and Truth is wild.
We'll do a little commission of Adolin and Abidi making out.
Yeah.
Listen, if Renarin can have a singer boyfriend and Navani can have her singer situationship, give Adolin his own singer situationship.
Fair. That's a valid point. Arshalan comes back.
Ian, go ahead.
Okay. What was I about to say? You totally okay.
Psychic damage.
Yes.
I tried to rail it, Ian. I tried.
Yeah. I think part of the issue with non-recurring fused antagonists is that we can't even get a fused until book 3.
Yeah, right.
At which point, like, they are still like super mysterious. Brandon is not going in. Like, this is still early days of the return. Like, we don't really like learn too much about the fused until
4
Rhythm of War.
Yeah.
And like Rhythm of War introduces like Leshwi gets introduced in Oathbringer, so like she gets pulled through, and then like Rhythm of War introduces 3 more: Elle, Raboniel, and Lesian.
Yeah,
2 of them die. 2 of the fused characters survive. Leshwi ends up not becoming a villain. L is like in a position where he can't do much or doesn't seem to do much.
Yeah,
So like
and
we
like
need to introduce Abidi as an antagonist. So yeah.
plus like L, technically L was introduced in Rhythm of War, but it was like what, the last chapter?
It was like the last one, and he
Yeah.
murdered Leslie,
Yeah, like
and
he
then
was
you're like,
he was
who's
the
the hell's
author
this
of
guy?
the
He was more introduced by his epigraphs than he
It's
was
true.
by the scene that he was in.
It's true.
He's now that we're talking about him on the Adolin episode, which
Yeah,
makes
you know,
perfect sense.
We were worried
he's a
we wouldn't
little-
have enough to talk about, guys. So we're just like, let's talk about the fused antagonists.
We're talking about Adolin's plot line in context of the book.
We're comparing
Yeah,
and
that's why
contrasting.
we are talking about
other parts of the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes
That's why
sense.
we're
Makes
talking
sense.
about L in this episode about Adolin's plotline.
Yeah,
Just follow the plot. L is a little Hoyd-like.
Yeah, I can see that.
In that he is like, he's a little passive, he's a little enigmatic, he's a little weird, he knows a lot, he's a little different from all of the others who are kind of in his category. So that's
He's not
interesting.
like other fused.
He is not like other
he's not.
fused.
No.
I don't want a title. I'm not like other fused.
No.
That's
the
my
high
L
school
impression.
AU.
Thank you. Please cast me.
It would have been interesting to have, hindsight, etc., etc. It would have been interesting to have like a persistent fused villain introduced in book 3 alongside with Leshwi, and then
Sure.
Leshwi kind of goes not in a redemption arc, but like more towards giving in on her honor sexual side, and then the other villain is more like, okay, well, this is an equally compelling threat, someone who is competent, but someone who doesn't waver away from Odium's goals and is just a problem.
What about good old Tarash? Remember Odium Race talking to Tarash? I remember.
I'm gonna say, yeah, we have.
I don't.
Well,
long-running-
Odia
How
Race said
dare you.
he can take back what gives him everlasting life.
Yeah.
To Tarash, and I was
Battle,
like, that
Battle
was,
of Thalen Field
Yeah.
when he was sending him after the Ulthgate sprint.
who are the Tissark guys? I've got to know.
Who are the Tissark?
Who are the Tissark? Put your comments below as to if you remember that the Tissark were named, 1, and 2, give me your theories as to what the Tissark are. Because the
Who
Tissark
knows,
were going to
man?
get the Uthgate platform, and they're not a brand. What's happening?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe we should talk about the non-Abidi side characters in the Adolin.
Yeah.
You think we should go back to Adolin on the Adolin episode?
No. I'm going to talk about the side characters because we're not going to talk about Adolin, good sir. No, but he'll be involved. I mean, we got to talk about Gawx, Yanagon, who got a lot of character development in this book. I thought that relationship was really good.
Yes. Yeah, like that. I was very much impressed with that. Again, a character introduced in Words of Radiance in the Lift interlude. So like we've never been in his viewpoint or anything, but like we've watched him grow and evolve from street thief to emperor of a much smaller part of the continent than he once was.
Azir, exclusively.
It was always lip service anyway.
Yeah, true.
But still,
Yeah.
lip service is important.
Listen, he's the emperor of the only part of the world that has sunlight now.
Yeah.
That's gonna count for something.
Get
true.
screwed, rest of the empire.
I love the conversation between Adolin and Nora,
Yes.
where she's like, hey, don't you be tempting him with bad ideas. And he's like, yo, I turned down a crown. You know, I don't have any ulterior motives. He just needs a friend.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because like he more than anyone else can understand what Yanagon is going through and can be, because like Adolin is a support character. He like that's just the nature of who he is as a person. Like he helps support people. So like of course he's gonna like support the people around him.
He's a good guy, and he's here to help people there. But I loved the Nora scene, just with how she feels about Yanagon, right? And like legitimate affection and things. And I really just loved seeing the character development of all of these side characters here. Like we got some of them in Edge Dancer, right? And we've seen them off and on. But this was really good. I liked that a lot. And Yanagon got to fight. He's an Unoathed. Hell yeah.
He is, I find, in some ways like a not a proto Adolin, but like there are similarities between him and Adolin that I can identify in how he is young for the station that he is in, but he's competent and he's just inherently good at heart and he's curious. And so like pairing him with Adolin is it's not like pairing Adolin and Kaladin, for example, who are so very opposite, and so like they challenge each other in everything that they do. They are very similar, and so they just kind of like both of them lift each other up a little bit. It was not intended. I realized what I said as I said it. Truly not intended.
I think in broad strokes, I liked the Adolin Gawx dynamic and story arc. But I did get kind of tired of the most of their development going on
during Games of Magic.
Yeah, during Games of Magic, where it's like Brandon reads Sun Tzu's Art of War to us through the lens of a card game or something.
Yeah, but the Sunmaker's Gambit is so good. That was good.
Yeah, I do like that. This is sort of off topic of Gawx, but as you mentioned, like I felt like Adolin was sort of doing a lot. Like his plot arc was really relevant to like explaining what Dalinar was doing. On like a narrative level.
Yeah, and narrative thematic. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like I think that setting up the Adolin Gawx dynamic for like, I feel like this is going to be a long-term thing, just based on how the state of Rasarr at the end of Wind and Truth. And yeah.
I do have to agree that like the Magic the Gathering was a little bit silly. Like the fact that we got so much of it, because like it's also like suddenly Adolin has always been a fan of this game that we've never seen him mention before.
Yeah.
And like constantly using the strategies where he's never mentioned them before. Yeah, okay. This was fleshed out in this book. Yeah. That's
It's a little like in like Oathbringer, where like the term like shard bearers can't hold ground gets used so many times and was never mentioned beforehand. And it's just like
this is an adage that we all know.
Just insert the meme of stop trying to make X happen. It's not gonna happen.
Exactly. And it's like there's like a little bit of nod to this where like Adolin starts using them because he's heard that the Azish general is also a fair of towers.
Yes.
It's like I'm going to speak to him with like this like shared language we have that not everyone has, except they say everyone learns strategy from towers. Okay.
Yeah, you can really tell that like Brandon had this idea only when he started writing this book.
Yeah, like towers existed. It's fine. Doesn't bother me a lot, but it was a little funny. But
yeah. In terms of like the actual stuff that like the amount of work that Brandon was able to do with establishing Adolin, like giving Adolin a reason to care about Gawx in particular, and then working through that, and then the payoff with having to sneak back into the throne room. I thought it was for such a large book as Wind and Truth was, and as meandering as it sometimes was, I felt that this was a really good use of page count overall.
Absolutely. And circling back to that, Adolin and Yanagon are definitely going to be a thing later. Yeah, I bet they are. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Adolin is, maybe his top advisor. Yanagon being 10, 15 years older and wiser and badass. And same with Adolin. Oh man, that's going to be really good, I think.
Yeah, I don't know how badass Yanagon's going to... He seems like a bit of a softie, you know what I mean?
Well, I think he's he's very much a thinker, right? He's less of a fighter. And so I like that kind of king in this series, where he is more thoughtful and introspective. So yeah, probably not badass, but I would say like decisive, right? I could see that he's
more mature,
like, oh, do this, and then people like do it. And he's well respected, and not just from the imperial title, but because it's him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can see that, yeah. It is interesting. And I'm gonna circle back to Adolin on this one. But I was thinking about, okay, so time skip, what does Yanagon look like in 10 years? And it's a little bit Renarin-esque, I feel like.
Yeah.
A little, I think, more confident, more like out in the open and stuff like that, but a little bit Renarin-esque. And I'm like, okay, well, so what does Adolin look like? And I think he's set up in many ways to go down the Dalinar path.
I don't think I agree with that. But
okay, let me finish, and I'll
go on.
I'll throw the ball in your court in that case. But like, there are thematic parallels between the two, kind of with the idea of like Adolin understanding Dalinar's perspective in this book. There is him in his like little epilogue section where he is learning to read because he wants to read Oathbringer for himself and understand his father, down to like I had this like like when Zabra comes in and is like, hey, the rain has stopped, the sun's coming up, and Adolin like picks up Oathbringer, not the Way of Kings, but Oathbringer, and like carries it kind of like under arm and like steps outside and just kind of stands stoically in the sunlight and looking up. Like, that's a very Dalinar like general thing for him to do.
You're making some good points here, I would say.
And there's also, and that's the final thing I'll say on the subject, the whole Son of the Blackthorn sequence from earlier that we all tend to love so much. So I'm not saying he's going to become Dalinar 2.0, like the old and wizened, general and stuff like that. But I think I think he's going to be closer to Dalinar in the back half than any other character in the front half is.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I don't think I really agree. To me, like, there are, of course, those similarities like you've listed, but they feel very superficial, like just aesthetic, more so than the actual character. Because like Dalinar, to me, like, his defining quality is that he is a tyrant, no matter how like much he tries not to like do that. Like, ultimately every book ends with Dalinar being, he has to be in charge, he has to be the one who does things, he has to be the one, leading the charge, so to put it. Even when he takes on the role of in the background, he's still like the big guy on top. And Adolin just, to me, isn't and is not going to become this kind of character. Adolin, in the early books, Dalinar is like trying to be this support character to Elhokar. Because like, Elhokar is his brother's son and he's the king. And eventually Dalinar just kind of gives up on even pretending to do that and just crowns himself as the king. Mm-hmm. And I think Adolin will actually succeed at being to Yanagon what Dalinar has failed to be for Elhokar, in that he will be an actual like wise advisor who doesn't actually threaten the throne. Yeah. Because he's not interested.
Which is kind of where I see Evgeni's point being. Like, Adolin isn't going to become Dalinar as he is. He's going to become what Dalinar like kind of wished to be.
Yeah,
but couldn't because he's a tyrant.
Like a foil to Dalinar.
Yeah. So it's like he is going to be that like the more wise general figure, advisor, everything Dalinar thought and or wished he could be, but couldn't because of his nature as a tyrant.
And maybe he could have, given time. Earlier when you said, he's been, every book he's been doing that, I did want to counter with, except for this one, right? Because at the end of this book, Dalinar's big arc moment is saying, I don't have to do everything myself. I'm going to pass on that responsibility to other people that I trust more than myself.
That's like the very ending. He still like spends the book like he's the one who goes into the into the spiritual realm, he's the one who ultimately has to be the one to confront Odium.
And I agree with you. I'm saying, he started on the path that I think if he had walked that path far enough, like if he hadn't died, that would be the same path that Adolin is walking on.
I really like the idea of like the next generation being kind of better in some ways than their parents. And so Adolin fulfilling the Dalinar role and feeling a bit like Dalinar, yet not having those flaws. And he has, these differences of opinions on like oaths and things, which we'll talk
He'll be
about.
a good dad.
Yeah, that'll be a source of conflict for sure for Adolin, right? But I think that could be really good. I don't know if that's where that's going to be going, but no, I definitely agree. He wouldn't be Dalinar to like seize the throne and things like that. Adolin is support, as we've established, and he will just be, the wise advisor guy. But he's not going to be like as old as Dalinar is to the rest of the cast. So
no,
You know what this makes me think, and maybe it doesn't make sense, but like I had this image in my head of, well, Dalinar's gone in the future, but there are the two halves of him that remain. There is the Blackthorn that represents the Blackthorn, right? and there is Adolin, and like Dalinar that we see in the first 5 books is an amalgamation of these two aspects, right? It is his war-filled youth, where he was the Blackthorn, and it is his wise and the general king, whatever, present. And when you split those, you kind of get a little bit of where Adolin is heading. Obviously, Adolin is still young and has a lot of journey ahead of him, but like you get that stuff, and then you also get the Blackthorn.
Yep. And then Kaladin is sort of a bondsmith, and of course Renard is forgotten about in this now.
He's the hero.
I was thinking about like, where's Renard?
What I was thinking with that is, good, so we'll bring the Blackthorn, and then we still won't have fused antagonists. We'll just have the Blackthorn antagonists.
He's kind of a fused.
I mean, that's true. He's kind of a fuse.
Yeah. Okay, guys, indulge me
He's more unmade than fused.
That's true. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But I was just thinking about like the whole like confrontation between Adolin and Sidious at the end of Words of Radiance of like, my father thinks I'm a better man than he is. Turns out he's wrong. It's like there are more similarities between the two than I think we tend to talk about.
Or they tend to talk
about.
Yeah,
because like their differences are so stark that they kind of like lose sight of like, no, they have more in common than.
Yeah, to be honest, like I don't feel like the books have done a lot with that. I'm not as good as my father thinks I am. Motive.
Yeah, it was cool for a scene. And I wish it had been explored more, kind of like this, like Adolin's dark side, right?
Remember when a lot of us thought that Adolin would be
for context, my reaction is because there's been theories since that Words of Radiance that's like Adolin will turn evil.
Yeah, but kind of this idea of almost for the greater good, right? Or whatever the cost in any of these other kind of sentiments. Well, it's okay to do a little bit of evil. It's okay to do a little bit of murder if it serves the greater good. So I agree. I do wish that had been explored a little bit more.
It is interesting because, in my opinion, Adolin is better than Dalinar in that moment because Dalinar is being too bullheadedly trusting and things, and Adolin's like, no, let's just get rid of this guy, get out of here.
that's like not the point that's trying to be made.
Yeah, I
Is
know.
that like Dalinar is saying like you're better than I was when I was your age, because like Dalinar at Adolin's age absolutely would have ganked Sadeas way before.
That's
this.
true. That is true. Very true.
And probably not in some back alley of Eurythera, right?
No, it would be very public.
Yeah.
Just on like in the middle of a feast.
Yeah, and then
Like,
he'd
you
go
want,
back
bro?
to eating
You
his
wanna
food
go?
with the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd like pluck Sidious's eye off the knife and go back to cutting steak.
Yeah. Write that fanfic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that I would have liked to see a Adolin grapple a bit more with some of like young Dalinar-esque tendencies. If only to like affirm that he is not a Blackthorn.
Yeah.
More of that arc, right? Because we have the end of Words of Radiance, my father thinks, and then we have Son of the Blackthorn in this book. And there's just no connective like tissue between these two moments. And these two moments belong to the same arc.
Yeah.
Which is we are missing the arc. We have 2 points.
I think part of the issue there is we don't, like we said earlier, we don't get Adolin viewpoints in Oathbringer. So it's like he's like going through and dealing with the fact that he just killed Sidious, like, and we don't get to see any of it.
Yeah. Sure.
And then there's also the year-long time skip during which time Adolin learns about Dalinar killing his mom. Which,
all off screen.
Yeah, which I think would if the Adolin as Blackthorn thing was more prominent, I think him being confronted with this is like the ultimate thing that the Blackthorn did would do a lot of stuff to Adolin. But for a variety of reasons, we just sort of we got the tail end of that angst as that like angst instead of anger, kind of. Yeah. I guess there was still anger, and then in Wind and Truth, we got some more of that. And I know that during the previews, many people, including me, were like really frustrated with Dalinar for Navani, straight up telling him, you should confront this, in case anything happens to either of you. Wink, wink. And
hey, maybe talk to your son.
Death flags all over the place earlier in the book.
Parade.
I remember reading that and being convinced Adolin was going to die, but
hey, I think that's top tier. That like I was worried about him for sure.
I still feel like Evie's death was overall for Adolin on page was underplayed from what I would have liked.
Yeah, I feel like this entire arc of Adolin and Dalinar's conflict got kind of very swept under the rug with all the other even with those Adolin POVs. We don't get Adolin POVs until after he has a lot bigger problem to worry about than him killing Sadeas.
Yeah. And I think it's ultimately we can't have everyone be the main character, right?
It's also true.
And it's exactly. We get a little bit of it in the conversation at the end of Oathbringer, where Adolin does tell Dalinar that hey, I killed Sidious, and it's Dalinar does try to underplay it, and Adolin was no, I did it, and I would do it again.
Hell yeah.
Which is kind of another point on that arc that isn't really fleshed out. It's we see it's very much a stellar constellation where we see a couple points of light and can kind of just imagine an arc happening there.
God, it would have been. I'm sorry, I cannot get over how cool it would have been to have and this is not a new thought by any means, but seeing Adolin grapple with killing Evie is the ultimate expression of the Blackthorn. And so him going, me killing Sadeas, that was a very Blackthorny thing to do. And so, is this kind of behavior in my future? Am I going to get to a point where I'll be okay, killing Shallan and whatever? and him like reeling back against that, like swinging the pendulum all the way the other way, and was like, no, I'm nothing like the Blackthorn. And then coming back to this book where he goes, okay, but maybe it's okay to be a little bit of Blackthorn as I swing a dude by the legs.
You know what? This is actually making me think, because like we were just talking beforehand about the Blackthorn as in the Spren kind of creature.
Yes.
I wonder if like in the future books we will see like Adolin having an arc where he has to confront the Spren Blackthorn. Like is the Blackthorn going to be an Adolin antagonist?
Let's just say if that doesn't happen, back arc is a failure. And Brandon, you've set this up. You need to do this. Like Adolin and the Blackthorn, like do need to like
you
deal
to have
with each
that
other.
horrified. I thought you were dead. You have to. Which will actually get quite a lot, because people will also get that reaction for Kaladin in a very different context. Thought you're dead.
Yeah. Much like Sigzil.
Hey,
Actually,
true.
Okay, indulge me for a moment, guys.
Yes.
If we have like, because Dalinar has 3 sons. He has Adolin, Renarin, and Kaladin is adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Would you consider the Blackthorn Spren to be Dalinar's child? Would he be like a brother to Adolin and Renarin?
No.
Okay, I was going
not indulged.
Not indulged. Fair enough.
You know what that made me think of? That just makes me think of how like Superman is a clone of Superman and Lex Luthor, and the Blackthorn is like just a clone of Dalinar and Taravangian.
I'm sorry. Superman is the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor. What?
Superboy is the clone of Superman and Lex Luthor.
I literally heard Superman is the clone of Superman.
I may have said Superman.
That's what he said.
I think Superboy becomes Superman in some continuity. So
sure, why not?
True, but yeah.
I also didn't think much of it because like comics are just that weird sometimes.
Yeah. Steering a little bit back, I do wonder with the whole how like Adolin's morality versus Dalinar's morality. I think this book did a really good job of exploring Dalinar's morality and how Adolin feels about it. And Adolin got to some good character realizations with that. At the same time, I'm pretty interested in the back half for Adolin's moral compass to kind of be tested. These new realizations, because I've definitely read some people being upset with the book that oaths now are not important. And I can kind of see why people would get that out of the book. I think it's a little more nuanced, but I think Adolin is an important counterpoint that oaths aren't the only thing that matters, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of want him tested, like his like what he thinks about promises, like what he thinks is right, like what is he willing to do or not do in the back half when things are so bad. I think that could be very interesting.
Like, what oaths like is he willing to double down on and say like, no, like this is worth going, like I'm fighting for this, versus like, okay, like this oath, like not worth it anymore. Like the reason I swore this oath is no longer relevant. Yeah. So like it's like finding that dividing line. Because like he's found the basic principle. It's just like now like he needs to make it real.
And I think the decisions on which oaths to keep or not is kind of the most important part, right? I do think Dalinar, I made an oath, so I have to do it, is simplistic and kind of dumb. So I love that the book did this. But, if you make 2 competing oaths, 2 competing promises, sorry, Adolin, and they're in conflict, who are you going to decide to save or not? Like, I think there's some very interesting philosophical struggles. I don't know. I think there's some interesting thematic stuff going on here that could be very interesting to explore, especially if we're drawing Adolin and Dalinar comparisons. And I'm sure that will be on his mind as he gets older.
Yeah, I don't think that Adolin will have that much of a problem with this stuff. I think that he'll be more. I think like Kaladin will have a lot more trouble with it. And I think Adolin is going to be more like. I mean, I'm sure that Adolin will have some trouble with it, but I think he'll be the one who's like trying to impart this wisdom onto like Kaladin, Gawx, whomever else. Ultimately, Adolin has a pretty strong moral compass.
That's true.
Like, but also is like pragmatic enough to weigh like he's not going to make like superfluous promises or oaths, and he's going to be, I think, generally pretty like one of the better characters at recognizing when a promise or an oath is no longer beneficial to anyone to try and uphold and all that stuff. I think it'll be an important part of his character, but I think it'll be more of like he's trying to help others come up with their own like sort of reprogramming themselves out of this honor pilled morality,
which like kind of underscores like the Dalinarness of him, because like what are the divine attributes of the bondsmiths? Like pious guiding. That's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
And Dalinar also was like, well, Dalinar was also like taking a sledgehammer to what was at the time like the orthodox viewpoint held by pretty much everyone. Adolin is sort of doing the same thing. It's just instead of Warrenism, it's like the concept of honor that Adolin is taking on.
Which is interesting given the concept of honor is now with the enemy.
Can't wait for book 7 in which Adolin plays towers with baby honor.
Yeah, kind of. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is that like honor needs to learn.
Yeah.
Well, what honor needs to do is watch Adolin.
Yeah.
Because Adolin will teach it the lesson it needs to learn.
I like how we are kind of just coming up with just these ideas of giving Adolin more students, because like he's gonna be teaching Gawx, he's gonna be confronting the Blackthorn, and also, baby honor will be there too.
Well, look,
Sure.
Shallan likes them pathologically incapable of just letting other people do their own thing.
Oh yeah, and he also is going to have his own child. Let's not forget about that.
He does have that too. Yes.
Seems like the
he will
least
not
important
actually
thing
be
about him.
able to interact with except through a Sion.
Yeah.
So,
you got Zoom calls. It's fine.
Look, remote parenting.
Ayla is going to be the best baby monitor.
I'm thinking that my Auntie Maya may play an important role also.
Yeah.
Send her
Oh,
over.
true. Right.
What, as a surrogate Shallan? What?
Because she can go in the
hanging out
shades.
with the kid. I see what you're talking about.
Oh my,
I'm not
yeah.
gonna engage Evgeni.
My
No, not
brain
Maya.
went into May,
Oh.
as my
Yeah.
brain often does.
With Adolin's moral compass, you are right. He has a very strong moral compass. I think it's very people centric, right? Like people he cares about, he'll make promises and he will find them very important. I don't know. I do find it just interesting if you like extend that idea to being a ruler, which like he has never wanted to do. And so like, cause you can't necessarily do that in particular.
Yeah,
There's some
I guess
interesting
stuff, right?
interplays.
Yeah, I think that's one of the dividing lines between Adolin and Dalinar.
Yeah.
Is that Adolin like does not want to be a ruler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or at least like not an ultimate ruler.
Yeah.
Apparently he's fine being a high prince.
Gotta be
But,
some,
like,
yeah. I got it.
He needs some level of privilege.
What's he gonna be, a
He
peasant?
has expectations.
I gotta go to my tailor, guys. I mean, come on. I gotta have my outfits.
There is sort of a disconnect. Like the ruler, like is like above the people they leave, kind of by necessity.
Yeah.
Whereas Adolin, by his nature, is much more ground level. Like he has connections with the people, like the rank and file soldiers.
I'm drinking with
And
all the
that's been like
soldiers.
that's been a book 1 characterization
Yeah.
of him, right? He
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
it's only in this book that he gets down in the trenches, but throughout he's been, walking the war camps and, joking around with people, like being, that's a weird parasocial relationship, but
I mean, but the thing is, though, I think he is an honest golden retriever of a character, and people can sense that, right? That he's not playing that up. I did like. Wasn't it Zarb Kushkum that didn't like Adolin initially? Zarb, yeah, hell yeah, I love
Zarb on the show.
I love seeing Zarb as a POV, one of the POVs in day 7. I think that was funny. But I know what you're gonna do, Adolin. You're gonna try and win me over, and then Adolin does, and it's not actually that hard for Adolin to do. And honestly, made perfect sense. Loved that. Yeah, you can just tell that he just does this all the time. He pathologically does this. It's great.
While we are still in the neighborhood of the subject of Adolin's moral compass and promises and oaths kind of thing, right. I want to float an idea by y'all and see how you feel about that, because I don't know how I feel about it, but it seems interesting. The idea of, obviously the idea of promises and oaths as, oaths are this inflexible thing where you just say a thing and you just stick with that thing, and your word is law kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And then promises are more this nebulous, more flexible kind of I'll do my best kind of energy, right? Mm-hmm. I was trying to I've always struggled with this distinction a little bit, and I know that other people have, even to a greater extent. I know that Joff was very upset about this whole arc because it didn't make sense to him, but I'm thinking are oaths as a collective, for example, in the context of a given radiant, think Kaladin and his own radiant oaths. Mm-hmm. Are they collectively like a single promise that the radiant is building towards? In other words, so Kaladin starts. Hold up! Hear me out! Let me cook.
Okay.
I need to get on a whiteboard to be I need some Venn diagrams.
Yeah. Full Pevensiwi here. So Kaladin starts off as, I will protect those who cannot. Life before death, but whatever.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. I'll protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is a very that's an oath for him. Mm-hmm. But if you take away all of the radiant context, you can see that as a promise. I promise to protect those who can't protect themselves. That is a very simplistic and a narrow view of the world. And so with his subsequent oaths, he essentially adds on more caveats to that.
Sure.
Even those I hate. I was having a conversation with my brother the other day, and we couldn't remember his 4th ideal, and I still can't remember his 4th ideal.
I believe it's the one about that he can't save everyone.
Yeah, I accept that.
There will be those
I cannot save.
Yeah, and then number 5 is look out for number 1. So with every new ideal, he builds on this more and more complex worldview of what it means to protect people. Another way to look at this whole thing, by the time he gets to 5, he's got this complex idea of, yes, I want to protect people. Yes, that includes even the ones that I don't want to protect. Yes, I'm not going to be able to protect everyone, but I also have to protect. There's this network of ideas. All of that, I think, if you remove Kaladin from the equation, and you're well, I'm building a protecting character, all of that can be distilled to a character who doesn't adhere to the formal ideal good understanding of what it means to promise to protect people. Like the implicit understanding that includes everyone, but that you're not going to be able to actually include everyone, and that you have to protect yourself, right? Because it feels to me like if someone like Adolin were to make a promise to, okay, I promise to protect people, right? If Adolin is saying that to the people of Azir, for example, or Azimir, then for him, there's going to be this implicit understanding of all of these caveats. Does that make sense? Like,
I
don't think there would
feels-
be such an understanding.
Maybe I'm not like native speaker enough, but like I'm not
Fortunately,
really
neither am
sure
I.
how this like transforms an oath into a promise. Because like for me, like an oath is like something you swear formally and is like this rigid thing, whereas a promise is something more personal that you like.
Yes, but like I'm talking about the collection of oaths, right? Because
I understand. I am understanding that you are putting something down, but I'm not sure if I am picking it up. Yeah, like I'm not.
I think
I'm
this
not
might
getting
be
it. I apologize.
Too Windrunner centric in terms of our understanding of what Radiant Oaths.
yeah,
even are.
perhaps.
Yeah.
I think in the case, if you just look at the Windrunner oaths, that we have a pretty good understanding of. Like, they start out with the broad thing, and then they include caveats that address issues they would have with the initial oath. I think that that's kind of what Adolin is basically saying, that having to have these caveats to avoid yourself from going into like psychosis or something, because you can't do what you said you would do, which is basically Adolin saying, yeah, no one can do everything that they say they're going to do.
And
That
people
shouldn't
grow
stop
and
people.
they change and they learn.
Yeah, and that shouldn't stop you from saying that you're going to do some stuff. So I think in that sense, sure, it's like Radiants. I mean, Radiants are sort of damaged people, right? And Adolin is like
Charged term, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, spiritually damaged. They have to like build up like a sort of scaffolding to like support their radiantness. And that scaffolding is sort of like something that Adolin is also building up, I guess, but in a non-magical sense.
Yeah. I guess for me, the difference has more to do with if you can't uphold this oath or this promise, like what do you do? It's like oaths like are rigid by their nature.
Until you swear the next one and give yourself leeway to not be rigid, right? I like, again, very Windrunner centric.
It's just changing the rigidity. It like
that's the same as being flexible.
It's changing the rigidity in very discrete ways.
Discrete, specific ways that are, yeah.
I
mean,
I have to admit, this conversation has gone to places where my brain cannot follow.
Yeah, like it's
like not to get
particularly,
mathematical
the
about
radiant
it, but
oaths,
like
the radiant oaths are a magical thing. Like they like the configuration of them, like is like there's like spiritual realm mechanics with those.
yeah, but there's also perception.
I think that with Windrunner oaths, a higher level Windrunner oath, if you took it in its entirety, so like the second through the fourth or whatever, compared to just the second, I think that Adolin would see the fourth level Radiant as having a more nuanced understanding of what it means to, like, ignoring the word oath versus promise and coming up with some generic word of like, you know, saying you'll do something. I think that Adolin would recognize the fourth level Windrunner as having a more nuanced understanding of what it realistically means to make something like an oath or a promise.
To say that you're going to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting at. I think extending it all the way to the far end, it's like any sufficiently advanced oath is indistinguishable from a promise is kind of the direction that I'm heading into.
Yeah, like I can kind of see that of like the ideal of starting out Radiants like are like very like rigid on the oath, like the way the honor entity is.
Sure.
Oh, we're committing to the
Whereas like
Yes.
yeah, whereas like over time the intention is for Radiants to gain a more nuanced interpretation of their oath.
I mean,
The
that's kind of
way
only-
that honor needs to learn a more nuanced interpretation of honor, and that these are not. It's not a betrayal, of itself. To like say like the oath was good, but I made it. It's no longer good. We're moving on now.
So what you're saying is that the honor entity is going to become a Windrunner.
I thought he was saying that Adolin is going to become honor.
Oh.
I mean,
that would be.
I'm not saying.
That would be pretty good. That'd be pretty good.
I think that Adolin's interpretation will be what the Radiance as a whole, like the Radiant side of the back half, will be trying to drive honor towards.
Okay. Adolin is not Dalinar 2.0. Adolin is Noadon 2.0.
Ooh. Interesting.
In the way that Dalinar also wanted to be Noadon 2.0 and kind of failed.
I could see Adolin writing a book or something that sort of lays out his feelings.
Sets things up for the space age, and we're like all reading aliens. Fuck.
I mean, I would not be surprised whatsoever if one of the back half book titles is an in-world book written by Adolin.
That'd be good. That would be sick.
I mean, if we stick with the whole book thing, right?
I don't see that not happening. So
fair. It is an archive.
Yes.
Getting back to side characters in this arc, we're having good discussion, guys. We wanted to talk about promises and oaths, so this is good. Let's talk about May Aladar, guys.
May Aladar.
I think we'll need a bit of fandom history on this one.
I think we'll need a little bit of fandom history. Yeah.
So she got May Aladar, not mentioned in Way of Kings or Words of Radiance.
No.
And then she got mentioned so many times in part 1 of Oathbringer that people thought, like, obviously this is a huge and vital character. And then she was like, did not show up, like barely used ever.
Yes.
So it's nice to see like May Aladar like actually being a character and doing stuff.
Our very own Matt wrote fanfic of Oathbringer from May Aladar's perspective, in the vein of its kind of May all along, which I'll link below. There's only 2 chapters though. But I loved seeing May here. She was excellent. I know Alex said that she wanted the Adolin and May relationship to be more crunchy, but I think they had a fun professional dynamic. I like that she's a little, not like mean, but just like she's not as golden retriever friendly as Adolin. Like she's a cooler person.
She has a bit of a sass to her.
There's a bit of sass, but I love her. She knows stuff. Get her a bow.
Yeah.
I loved her line of like, I'm your ex-girlfriend, therefore I am the closest thing to a representative of your wife here.
It's so good.
Wife twice removed.
Yeah. Shallan, you're cheating on me with another woman, and now she's on oath to not me. If anything, Shallan has way too many oaths, so she couldn't be.
Shallan has too many oaths. Shallan is way too oathed.
Too oathed.
Quick side tangent.
Yes.
The Google Trends chart for May Aladar does not make any sense.
Okay, yeah. What does
There's
it say?
a massive spike in 2008.
May Aladar, she's so cool. She traveled back in time.
Back out gets crazy, guys.
And a small spike in September of 2023. So
Apparently, Aladar is also the name of an iguanodon who is the main protagonist of Disney's 2000 feature film Dinosaur.
Sure, yeah. you know.
Okay.
sure, all right.
This is the
Maybe
important
that's one.
Shardcast news that you wanted here. The news discussion that you want. I mean, May's great. Do you guys have any points about May?
This is gonna be very silly. There is this folio in Rhythm of War of like this Alefi woman in this really hot looking outfit, and I like to headcanon this as being May Aladar.
Yes.
Oh my god,
And
she is.
I think she's very hot and cool.
She's very hot and cool.
I would kill and die for that woman.
Yes. Yes.
Can you get that in the green
Um,
screen background, Argent?
Yeah.
Great.
I do like May like as like another distinct expression of like Vorin femininity. Like contrasted to Yasna and Shallan.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, that's nice.
I agree. I'm into that.
Brother.
Because like it goes to show like archery not a gendered art in Vorin society. I don't think we knew that.
I'm pretty sure like with archery, I'm pretty sure this is derived from like Japanese culture, because it's also like in Japan, archery is considered like a feminine sport.
Interesting.
It's like you
Japan and South Korea have like they like dominate women's archery in the Olympics or something like that.
Yeah, because like even like if obviously I'm not Japanese, so I can't like speak for Japanese people, but even if like you watch like anime set in high school, you will see like girls are the ones who have archery classes.
God.
But like there's like guys who are archers too, and like,
obviously, yes, but like in terms of like
I think it's more that it's ungendered rather than it's like specifically feminine.
I'm pretty sure it is ungendered.
Well, yeah,
Whereas like in America, like it's like most sports are like more masculine, unless it's like cheerleading heavily feminized.
Sure.
Whereas like it's more just like there's not a gender alignment. If anybody is Japanese and can tell us more, please do.
Yeah.
Yes, please don't let like the white woman in the room tell you all about the Japanese culture.
Well, better than the 3 white men.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I liked her. I thought that there was sort of a mixed bag of what you may term fan service in Wind and Truth, and I thought some of the returning characters in Adolin's plot arc were pretty, I think, well handled because they were all generally like it made sense for most of them to be there and to be like people that Adolin would be interacting with.
And also there was Yakimov.
Yeah.
And like,
oh yeah, he was there.
Wait, Yakimov
he was there for like a paragraph.
Oh, interesting.
He was?
I don't remember that.
I'm pretty sure it was Yakimov, but it was like,
I don't think so.
I don't think it was Yakimov.
It was like some other like named character that
because like
showed up.
I specifically wanted Yakimov to be back in this book, and he was.
Oh, and you were upset that it was someone else.
I don't know.
Well, like more that like I wanted some sort of resolution to like Yakimov betraying Adolin, and that has never happened.
It wasn't.
Well, you know.
Okay. Well, it was some other. Oh, you were my, not childhood friend, but like, old like drinking buddy or whatever, sparring partner. Oh, all my friends are here. Go report to this officer, and then they're never heard from again.
May is fun because probably most readers do not remember that May Aladar was in previous books. I mean, because it was not very notable, but she popped off the page here.
They will presumably like remember Aladar as like a high prince that.
Yeah, they'll remember
because Dalinar interacts
sure.
with him reliably and consistently.
For sure. Yeah, but
But no, I love her. I think she can do no wrong.
She can do no wrong. Zero wrong.
She's just like I fully like bought into the May Aladar memes so much.
Yes.
In Oathbringer that like she's
2017.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just always excited to see her.
Yep. Another, I think, fan favorite. We gotta talk about Maya, aka the person calling out Adolin for being a slut. So good.
Adolin?
Are you a slut?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah. And, I will say, like, I remember back in, I think it was Oathbringer, I think I wrote something about how, like, I'm really hoping that Maya is, like, this badass warrior spren. And every book since then has been so good for me as a Maya fan.
You said that in a Shardcast episode, or at least I think I remember someone talking about it in a Shardcast episode.
I definitely brought it up before as, like, me being happy that it's proven true.
Yeah.
Like, when in Rhythm of War, it turned out that, like, her torn outfit is a military uniform.
Yeah.
Viewers, almost squealed with joy at reading that.
It's such a different kind of spren, and I just love that she's crass, but also kind and things. And she's just the perfect spren for Adolin. It's so good.
I think it would have been really easy to, like, have, like, basically an Eevee replacement be, like, Adolin's spren, but Maya is, like, categorically not that.
Yeah.
That's
and,
the
like,
story's benefit.
Yeah, like you've said before, like, she's not like the other Radiant spren we see. Because, like, okay, ignoring for a moment, like, Stormfather and Sibling, who, I know, she's not like the other girls.
She's not the other Radiant spren.
We had to acknowledge the fact that
we had to acknowledge it.
Yes, she is not like the other girls. Like, because the other spren...
This is all scripted, actually, guys. This entire show.
Yeah, because, like, the other spren are a lot more of, like, support characters. Like, they're here to pat you on the back and tell you you're doing a good job and, like, be there for you when you need to cry your heart out. And they're not like all due respect to Syl and her one scene of holding a sword, she is not clawing anyone's eyes out anytime soon.
It's fair. It's fair.
She wants to, though.
Yeah. Well, Maya gets it done. All right.
Yeah. And I just like, how do I phrase this? Because I don't want to imply that spren are lesser characters than humans.
I know what you mean. Like, they are...
Well, Brandon should have wrote it that way, then.
Yeah.
Maya and Adolin feel more like on equal footing.
That's not the point I'm trying to make, but
okay.
That's fair. Because I'm just thinking about, like, D&D, and, like, some characters have familiars, and it's like that's kind of like my analog of, like, there's the Radiant, and, like, this friend is kind of their familiar. It's their little helper person, and I just like dynamics where that little helper person doesn't put up with their Radiant's creme. I do this with my D&D character when I write him. He's super sarcastic. And so that's like a dynamic of, like, I'm not going to let you get too full of yourself. I'm going to keep you humble.
This makes a lot of sense.
And, like,
for
we
you.
get that so I like that Maya, like, kind of deflates Adolin's ego a little bit. It's like, it's hilarious.
So we need a character like that because he's so likable and so many people like him that we need a character who legitimately, like, cares so much for Adolin, obviously. But, she will call him out on his BS every time. Like, I don't know about that. Like, I think you're lying to yourself about this.
Yeah, I get that there's, like, the Two Towers sort of, like, Gandalf-esque, like, she leaves and comes back. I really would have liked if she was present for more of Adolin's arc. Because I think you could accomplish about the same thing if you had Maya in Azimir and contrived some other way for there to be, like, a long shot reinforcement option that gets the Deadeyes to show up.
I mean, you can have them be like, they can, so the same way they show up at Lasting Integrity because they can sense that something important is going on, they can show up on the other side of Azimir and just kind of hang out there and not do anything. And then on day 9, day 10, Maya's like, hey, actually, I'm gonna hop out real quick to the other world and just bring in some reinforcements. That work.
I feel.
I think Maya's absence is a little contrived.
I would agree, but I like that I think it increased tension for him not having a shard blade. I do agree.
I think the shard blade is the
yes.
real answer. Yeah.
Yeah, like needed to get rid of, like needed to nerf Adolin enough that like his failure in like maintaining defenses like was believable.
Yeah.
But like I do really like the Gandalf of it all. Like that's just a plot arc I like.
It feels good with the day structure, but I can see like there's so many things in Stormlight that if you're Brandon, you can come up with any number of sensible explanations for inexplicable things to happen. That is certainly true. We have spiritual mumbo jumbo at our disposal, so anything's possible here, guys.
It is a real magic system.
Yes. In Rhythm of War, guys, right after Rhythm of War, I was just curious. I thought there would be more that Adolin needed to do to heal Maya, and it just kind of happened. Like, he did the thing at the end of Rhythm of War, and Maya's like, yeah, I'm talking.
Yep.
Okay.
One of my biggest complaints of the book of what Adolin... I'm not upset that, like, Maya, like Maya had the breakthrough. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
What I dislike is that all of the Unoathed can just do that now. Like, they don't have to put in the effort.
I feel like this is kind of the consequence of Brandon mostly off-screening the consequences of Bado Mishram being freed.
Hey.
Because like she just kind of dips.
Yeah, it's like Bado Mishram being freed just like automatically fixing the dead eyes is super unsatisfying to me.
Over time, right? There is like in Adolin's little epilogue section, which is a month and a half after Retribution, Yanagon reports that his blade Zorm continues to get better. Well, it's an X actually.
Oh, okay. Oh.
It's that kind of, but like reports that Zorm continues to get better. So like it's an ongoing process. Like Maya's eyes have healed, kind of. She still has scarring. Month and a half into this, so like I think Mishram's freeing accelerates the process of healing the dead eyes. But I think the Unoathed Spren are getting more out of the fact that they have this kind of bond with humans.
I don't think that's how it's explained in the books. I think even non-Unoathed dead eyes are just being fixed without.
I agree that they're being
fixed.
I think that Unoathed Spren are getting fixed faster.
Are they getting fixed faster, or are they just like less damaged in the first place? That's sort of something that I like. I really, really like. Maybe my favorite part of the moment in the book was when I think the Ash Spren responded to Adolin when he called on them and said like "Watchers on the Rim" or something to that effect,
or conveyed that as a feeling.
Or it was trying to say it, and Adolin could see that it was trying to say that. Had that Spren like healed? Are you saying that it had healed, or are all at the point where that Ash Spren was trying to speak? Maybe this is getting too far into Unoathed mechanic stuff that we want to save for a future episode.
Yeah, we will.
Are you saying that like the situation that Ash Spren was in was like the baseline for all?
I don't know. I don't know why that specific Deadeye felt more restored than any other Deadeye that we have seen. Granted, most of the Deadeyes that we've seen have been special cases. But no, I'm not saying that the Ash Spren was healed in that moment of time more so than any other, and it's weird to me that it was able to communicate.
I don't think it's weird that it was able to communicate, because like I think this is getting into like Death for Spren being different and weird. Of like they are broken. That was like the barest like extent of what it could do.
But like the way Maya's story is told to us, like point. She was able to tell Adolin her name it is implied because of like all of the time that he's spent forging this connection with her. And so for a random ass Ash Spren to go, hey, I'm not just telling you my name, I am conveying a complex thought that we are the watchers at the rim, the one that protect the others at our own cost.
So was the Ash Spren one of the Unoathed Spren then? So I think you could argue that, man, this is definitely getting into Unoathed mechanics tangent, that what Adolin is doing with Maya forged a spiritual connection, and Maya has a spiritual connection to all of these others, and so that's
that I'm not willing to go with.
I mean,
like I'm willing to go with like Adolin and Maya like made this new type of Spren human relationship that is like the template of the Unoathed, and that there was some like spiritual like as like we're approaching the inception of the Unoathed like as a mechanical thing in the Cosmere, that like it was rippling backwards in time somewhat.
Yeah, but that's kind of what Eric is saying as well.
That's kind of what I'm saying, that like the other Unoathed Spren didn't need to go through the entire process that Adolin did with Maya, right? So it's clearly Maya and stuff needed to do something in some respects.
Essentially, end of Rhythm of War, there are spiritual ripples in, like, Maya being restored a little bit affects things on a fundamental. Like, I don't like that at all. This is the kind of like I just don't. That's yes, I can justify that. Like, I can make it work because you can make anything work in the spiritual realm.
Yep, true.
But it's so unsatisfying.
Maybe, maybe this should be off record, but I mean this very affectionately, but do you ever consider the fact that we are saying with full confidence statements like propagating backwards through time and spiritual ripples?
Oh, we're not. No, we are pulling shit out of our asses.
Yeah, it's
I'm specifically referencing a thing in Dresden files in my brain, so I am being somewhat genuine.
This is like peak spiritual mambo jumbo.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, no, I think this is very on brand for this show, really.
I'm being entirely genuine.
A little like back on topic.
Yeah,
I would say like there is this backwards background element of like, we are told that it's easier for Spren to cross over from the cognitive into the physical because it has been happening more over the last few years.
People are more aware. People are thinking about Spren more often, etc.
Like with Notum stuff.
I think what Brandon is going for is that there are background changes to the like spiritual cognitive nature of Rasarr that are making things easier to happen, but it is still unsatisfying from like narrative standpoint.
Mm-hmm. I'm also unhappy with Notum just being able to rock around without his friend bond.
That was very weird. I am not satisfied.
I can buy Notum doing this a lot more than I can buy this random Ash Spren. Because it's like the Ash, like the dead-eye-ness of a Spren doesn't change based on which realm they are in. Like, the fact that a Deadeye can more easily cross, or the fact that any Spren can more easily cross into the physical realm, doesn't change the fact that the Spren's mind is the Spren's mind, right?
I'll just say I found the explanation for whatever's Notum's doing. I love Notum in the book, to be clear. Like, that was great. I'm glad he's finding a new path. Love that. I find that mechanical explanation for what he's doing to be okay, sure. Whereas I don't think it's a stretch to say that Maya and the other Unoathed Spren have some sort of connection. I'm not saying as much as like a radiant connection or something. Like, something happened to allow those Spren to be unoathed, different from other Deadeyes. And I don't think that's crazy. I think that's pretty sensible.
Post Bond, yes. like the reason I'm getting so hung up on this is because Adolin has the conversation with the Ashspren before before anything happens.
I'm telling you, spiritual ripples through time.
Yeah, I don't think that
Legitimately, I don't think Brandon thought that much.
Oh no,
It
no,
just needed the Ashspren.
And I'm not saying that he did, and that's why I'm upset about it.
I don't remember when this happened in the book, I'll be honest.
this is right before Adolin comes up with the term unoathed on the spot. And
that's fine.
Cringe.
That's fine. The connections are happening to allow them to all take the unoathed stuff. That's fine. I'm not worried. If it's day 10, that's fine. Whatever connection mumbo jumbo happened, it already happened. That's fine. They just needed to take the blades.
I do think that Allah's got in terms of what is explained in the book, I think she has the most satisfactory explanation, although I don't like the whole justification for why Notum is able to just hang around. But I think that in terms of what we're told in the book,
inexplicable to me.
I mean, Notum is the least offensive thing for me because it makes sense to me. Like regular Spren cannot fully cross over into the physical. I mean, like emotion Spren and nature Spren, but like they partially cross over all of the time. Like that's a fundamental property of Rasarr. And so the question then becomes is why can Radiant Spren not do that? And I can buy the idea that Radiant Spren
they can't cross over. It's just they lose their minds.
Now they do. Like Syl lost a lot of her mind. Pattern lost a lot of his mind. But like subsequent Radiant Spren have been established to be able to do this more easily. So there is enough foundation for this is like when the entire world is aware of radiant bonds and when radiant bonds exist, then Radiant Spren crossing over is not that big of a deal.
Like still they need a bond though. Why doesn't Notum need a bond?
Yeah, like it's like
he's just
no, they don't need like Syl crossed over with she was looking for
she lost her mind.
Yes, but she was also the first.
But
right?
Also there was
that matters.
Spiritual connection with Kaladin.
What Argent is driving at is that it does matter that she was the first because we do establish in Wind and Truth that it has become easier for Spren to cross over. So presumably, because it's now easier for Spren to cross over, Spren who cross over in search of a bond don't lose their minds.
Essentially. Or don't have to, right? There's enough precedent to allow for that.
Can I read this Knights of Wind and Truth epigraph? Because this is wild. I know to this day, people are confused by how at the end, Spren began arriving in the East without the need for bonds. Notum,
it's me.
now,
I'm people.
Yeah, I'm people. Hey, that's me. Thanks.
Also, in the East is interesting, but
yeah. Azir, the East. Notum, now among the famous of.
Well, this is written by a Shin woman, so everything is
that's
Eastern.
Everything is fair point. Yes. That's very fair. Okay. Thanks, I appreciate that. Notum, now among the most famous honor Spren, is an example. The answer is simple, however. As the lands began to think of them and remember them, they needed less the bond of a single person to give them purchase in the physical realm. For the thoughts of an entire people bolstered them.
Yeah. It's democratized.
So what's the point of the Spren bond?
And
I'm gonna be honest with you all. Until 10 minutes ago, I did not even realize there was a problem with Notum hanging around. I did not know this was an issue.
No, this is a problem. I'm irritated with
it. Glaring immediately how is Notum here? Yeah. How is Notum here? How is Notum here?
And also, more importantly, is this new? Did this happen pre-Recreance?
I think this 100% would have happened pre-Recreance, yes.
I guess.
And I think as people become more, because remember, Shadesmar has been largely forgotten up until a couple of years ago.
I guess I would have just loved any reference to this being possible ever without a Spren bond. That would have been great. That would have been helpful.
But it's a new discovery.
It would have been nice if in one of the flashbacks during the Recreance or something, we saw
Sure.
like random Spren hanging out. But
In any flashback ever.
Or like any friend saying like, this used to be easier once. We need to like, we don't know why it's different now, but
I think my irritation
I
is
will grant
warranted,
that
good
much.
sir.
I will allow that. I
Great.
will not allow disbelieving that it's possible, but I will allow, yes, this could have been established better.
Okay, I will return to the topic of Adolin.
No, we need
yeah.
to fight.
I mean, how about we talk about Notum in the book rather than the mechanics? So Notum is an Unoathed now, right?
He is, yeah.
Yes.
I think it's a fun visual of like the shard helmet misting away or something, and it's just a random honor. It's like an honor sprint in
Translucent ghost underneath.
That's cool. I love that.
That is neat.
Notum is a great side character that we've gotten in Oathbringer, Rhythm of War, and Wind and Truth. I think Brandon's done that really well with that progression. Always liked how we saw him in Rhythm of War and what Adolin did to help Notum.
And like
it's paying off.
specifically, like he's been like an Adolin side character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through all 3 books.
Yeah, that's good. Potter's good.
I don't know how I feel about him being able to wear armor. I don't know how much I buy the description of because I understand what Brandon is going for. He's saying, hey, moving the plate was never about people's physical strength. The plate kind of moves itself. But isn't it also like resting on the person who is in the plate?
It's a little ice.
It's power armor.
I think you could make the argument that there's like some like shard exos, like the shard plate's forming some like skeleton within itself. That's because like it's able to create a foot for Adolin.
That's I mean, it's not that weird.
It could conceivably create an entire body for Notum.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I wonder, do you suppose this was like a thing back before the Recreants?
Unoathed or
what was?
No. Spren wearing Spren, like imagine not like even like an unbound Spren, but like imagine like a Radiant letting their Spren wear their shard plate.
I feel like that wouldn't have been something they would conceive, like because there's no indication that they can grant their plate to others.
Some of them.
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
I feel like the mechanics that allow this to happen would have been applicable in the past.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a thing that was necessarily done.
I think Notum having a bond to a bunch of Spren is a new thing. But I see no reason why in the past he couldn't have had like a Radiant lend him their plate.
Oh man.
Maybe it needed to be like explicitly a Windrunner, if we think that this sharing of plate is a Windrunner specific thing. But like I don't see why not.
Maybe we need to write these things down and in the near future do Unoathed mechanics. I didn't think there was as much to talk about with that, but no, there very much is. Actually, we absolutely have questions.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about Notum as a character. He was cool. I like that he was like this guy who was around for several books and like had his own side character arc.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like that. Like there was like some progression of like, I don't want to be a Radiant Spren.
I don't want to be an exhibit.
But I want to help fight the war.
I want to help. And
I thought that was foreshadowing him becoming a Fabrial. I was wrong.
I do want to see a Spren choose to become a Fabrial, because that's another thing that's like, I don't know why you would do that, but okay, sure.
I feel like Sigzel's Spren feels like the type of Spren who might be willing to become a Fabrial. She just has that vibe.
I just realized that like Aether of Night
Oh, cool.
One of the aethers is you can just become like
that's right. You become
like a metal pillar and you can power robots. And I'm like, why would anyone do that? And like, I wonder if Brandon like just took that and gave it to this friend.
To the Fabrial to make Fabrials work. Probably.
To make Fabrials.
It's like, oh yeah, that's a Cosmere thing that can happen. That makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about any other side characters? I think we definitely talked about Abidi way more than I expected in this episode.
Kushkam is the general's son, right?
Kushkam is the general.
What's the guy's his son's name? Gezemal, yes.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Gezemal was a super cool character, and like embodying like Azish, like
That's true. That's true.
I liked earlier when we were talking about Nura. I was looking for a way to bring that up, but
true.
There was an interesting parallel between Adolin's conversation with Nura and Adolin's conversation with Gezemal, where like Gezemal is like out like
doing the latrines, right?
Latrine duty. Yeah. And like Adolin kind of, I don't know how much he actually internalized this knowledge, but at least learning about how the Azish think about their emperor, about their prime, right?
Yeah. It's like he did the right thing and he's being punished and Adolin doesn't get it. But
there's like, this is how we like this is our culture, man. Back off.
Yeah. I got kind of Way of Kings, Words of Radiance vibes in terms of how like we got an opportunity to spend some time in a weird culture that we hadn't like we were familiar with sort of the memes about the Azish people and I mean we had moments in Azimir before, but having some more deep dives into how they differed or how they actually did stuff was
how
fun.
It functions in actuality. Like how you'd actually live there and see.
Because what we had before was this kind of very like caricature of, they just have these laws and these forms.
Yeah, right.
And you just fill out the form to go to the bathroom. I'm like, that's not.
Yeah.
And like that conversation is also like very important because like the point of like you can love something that has imperfections and it's okay.
Yeah.
Which kind of like helps Adolin come to terms with his father of like, I can still love my father even though I hate this thing that he did. That causes me pain to think about. Yeah. But it doesn't make me love my father less.
The theme is just oozing in all of this that really connects really well with Wind and Truth as a whole. And I think overall the theme work is quite good in the book.
And I will resoundly agree with that. I think out of all of the main characters arc, and I consider Adolin a main character for the purposes of this book.
Definitely this book.
His arc is definitely, if not the most, then one of the most like rich with themes. Like in the like lit class essay, what are the themes of this book? Like Adolin and Dalinar, I think, have the most of it.
Yeah, and Adolin was sort of doing double duty thematically, where he was also doing stuff for Dalinar's arc.
Yes,
and
like
but
Dalinar
context.
was also doing a little bit of Adolin stuff. So like the two of them are.
What was Dalinar doing for Adolin except killing his mom?
Sending him understanding at the end.
Yeah, sending good vibes.
Well, like acknowledging that in the argument between the two of them, that was not a real argument, but like both of them were just thinking about it. Dalinar is the one that ultimately conceded. It was like, yes, my son's way was the correct way.
Sure, and his way wasn't the right way. Yeah, that's fair. I like that. Maybe we should touch on a bit more Adolin and Adolin's gonna be a dad.
Yay.
Yeah.
Putting those showers to good use.
Putting the showers to good use. Book more canonically horny than usual Brandon books.
Hey.
But we needed to see the shower sex on screen to foreshadow Swan's pregnant.
Do you suppose that's when it happened? That's when
I think that's
there's a line that basically I think can be interpreted as confirming that's when it happened.
Yeah. I mean, I think to a reader, I think it's trying to indicate that, like, yeah, that, like, in this book, reminding them of that, because obviously they, you know, they're married, they did stuff in Rhythm of War, right? But I think it's the shower sex for sure.
And yeah, in terms of
For how long is Shallan's epilogue?
You know,
sequence?
it's really
just a
vague.
few months
somewhere
later.
around a month.
Yeah.
Is it a few months?
No,
Yeah.
no exact
Adolin
numbers.
is a month and a half, and he still hasn't made
And
contact
Shallan's is
with-
later.
with- Okay, so if it's like
Yeah, I
3
think it's fine.
months, I think it's like reasonable for her to know.
I mean,
Okay,
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
months.
It takes like a month to.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't
think
know.
Shallan would have
I've never
figured it
been
out pretty
pregnant,
quick.
so I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, she would know because she missed her period, which
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
man, this is making me think about like how having to deal with periods while living in Shadesmar in a society that doesn't really experience them.
that must be super
Whew.
fun. Let's talk
Yeah,
about
I'm glad there are
period
some, like-
mechanics in Shades.
Man, I am glad there are some
waiting
world
for
hoppers
you.
because maybe she can get like maxi pads from Scadrial.
Right next to the canned beans.
This is one of those things where it's like in fantasy books, it's like, you know what? We don't need to see them go into the bathroom. And like, let's just gloss over bodily functions
No, but
here.
like seriously,
Adonalsium
No, I agree.
designed humans just a little bit better.
man,
I
I,
guess-
wish Adonalsium designed
That would be good.
woman a little bit better
That'd be
IRL.
So just tallying up who is going to be there to help Shallan raise the kid. Testament Pattern, the Sion.
And Ayla.
Yeah.
Great.
Adolin,
maybe-
Adolin by proxy of Ayla.
Maybe
VS
Uncle Felt every now and then.
Oh, good.
Maybe Felt.
Felt.
She's gonna bully him into following her around.
What a trustworthy figure.
Uncle Thydakar every now and then.
Yeah.
This kid is going to grow up so gloriously weird.
and
This kid has Yu-Gi-Oh hair.
Yeah,
It better
right.
be weird.
we're vibing today, Ian. Yeah, no, we got the Yugi Moto hair, and that's very important. And we're gonna play a card game. Towers, obviously, is foreshadowing.
Obviously.
We're gonna play Towers with Teravangian in book 10, and the
And-
child is going to, you know,
He's gonna believe
I
the
stab-
web of the cards.
I summon my blue eyes white cryptic.
White, blue eyes, white,
it's good.
It's fine.
chasm fiend.
It's
Yeah.
going to end with little baby Adolin Shallan challenging Retribution to duel.
Yeah. He's putting in Towers to really. Towers will feel really good in the back half. We're going to get a lot of Towers.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
going to
It's gonna be like a lit RPG. It's gonna be a lit RPG. We're gonna have it's like on the page. It's gonna actually show like the life bars for each person.
life
What
points,
is what is
like-
a duo if not a contest of champions, really?
If you think about
seriously-
it. If you think about it.
Seriously, I really hope that Brandon like takes advantage of the fact that this kid is being raised in the weirdest circumstances by the weirdest like assortment of surrogate parents and
In
like
Shadesmar.
make this like
Yeah.
in Shadesmar. Yeah, imagine how weird it's going to look to like little Shallan baby the first time they step out into the physical
Mhm.
realm.
Yeah.
Like I hope Brandon like capitalizes on the potential, comedic potential of all this.
We'll see.
I hope that they have some. They pick up like some cryptic mannerisms, like they just start humming at people if they lie.
Oh, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
I don't know how. Like the kid's gonna be like what 10 years old when the back half starts. So I guess that's like about lift-ish in terms of like maturity.
I mean, Lift is like 14.
Well, she's been 10 for 3 years.
Yeah.
4 years at this point.
Maybe the prologue
More.
to book 6 is gonna be this child finding the Millennium Puzzle in the Obsidian. And that's the inciting incident. And we have an
ultra-rare
ancient,
Fabrial.
and we have like an ancient like Nohadon. Did we get Nohadon in there? Yeah, easy. There we go. Nohadon, you didn't know, actually has the Yugi hair.
Every now and then, Shallan's child just turns into Nodon.
It's good. I think we really nailed it here, guys.
I think we get to go home. That's it.
I love that there's
Yeah.
towers that we can make the joke. Like that's really good. I love that a lot.
Incredible.
Something new but old of design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Good.
just to wrap that up, I don't think that the kid's going to be like a super important character in their own right, at least initially. There may be some time skips between books that ages him up. I don't see like Brandon making a 10-year-old like a major character.
You know, I always kind of assumed that the time skip will be about like 15 years,
That's fair.
which
It
would
could be.
make them the right age. But like, I don't think we know at this point anything about
Even
that.
even
I think Brandon
even
could touch it.
15 is yeah.
We can have
Brandon could
teenage
fudge it however he
champion in
wants,
the back half, not child champion.
I think it's more of a Shallan like side character thing for her to deal with as she does whatever she's gonna do in the back half.
Mhm.
Well, I do think it's going to be a big Adolin thing because he will want to be a good dad, right?
And
Yeah. Yeah, I
no,
think
it is
that
a little bit
yeah.
sad.
Shallan and Adolin, yeah.
Yeah.
But like they are going to be small. Like Shallan is definitely going to be a smaller character than she is in the front five.
I think you know, this makes me think of like Elokar in book 1.
Mm.
In
I
that,
could see
yeah,
Shallan- I was
that's a
thinking-
person, that's a character, but they're not like driving anything. They exist for other characters to play off of.
Yeah, I was thinking Shallan would be like a sort of Yasna level character. Yasna in Way of Kings is what Shallan's going to be in book 6,
Okay,
something like that. I
nice.
think.
Nice.
But yeah, I think that he'll like very consciously be considering his being a father against how he was raised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it like feels like terribly sad because like he won't be able to, like he will definitely want to be there more so than Dalinar was to him and Renarin, but like he won't be able to like actually be physically there.
I know.
Like, the
Oh,
best
that's
I love
is
that.
like Sion spirit. Like yeah, it's a great from like dramatic standpoint, but it's also like terribly sad.
Yeah, I know. That's why I like it.
Sucks.
In a way, it's worse than him not knowing.
I like it. Give that suffering in there. I love that. Will it be properly crunchy character wise? I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Probably not.
And I mean, that's like, I was speaking with a colleague of mine the other day, and it's the fact that all of this stuff is going to happen off screen between 5 and 6, and like all of the characters are going to deal with all of their nonsense,
Mhm.
is a little, you know, the crunchy moments are all happening in the next year, and we don't get to see any of that.
I don't agree with that.
Mhm.
I think
I think that it's better to commit to a time skip. I think that the series needs a time skip.
I
And-
agree,
Yeah.
but all of they're not cliffhangers, but like all of the juice, like every character who's not frozen in carbonite has something they need to like deal with right now. You know, Kaladin has so much stuff in his therapy sessions to process. Shallan has stuff going on. Adolin has stuff going on. Like, and we're not going to see any of it.
I just don't agree, especially in this case with the child, because presumably we will see, you know, Shallan and Adolin being reunited on screen. And so that's going to be the thing where like Adolin's been trying to be a good dad, but like there's like it's not quite working there.
Sure.
And so I think that is the interesting part to do that.
Yeah, but like we presumably won't see on screen the moment he finds out he's a dad. Like
Yeah.
Sure.
by the
I mean,
time like
that's
this
true.
time skip happens, he will already like be remotely raising that kid.
By the time we get back to these people, like this dramatic change in their life will have become routine, right? Adolin is not dealing for the first time with learning how to be a remote dad. He's been doing that for a decade. And yes, he has to learn how to now be back to the office
Present.
dad.
I think that is going to be it's going to be far more interesting to begin a story with them being in person and figuring out how this actually works. Because presumably Zoom parenting didn't work great. And so what are the consequences of that? How's the relationship going to go?
Sure.
I think that is a much more interesting place to start.
Because like we have this, and we also like, to go on a brief tangent for a moment, for a sentence, like we have stuff like with Gavinor having to adjust to no longer being, child soldier.
Sure.
We have like the immediacy of Shallan trying to establish some kind of like safe and stable situation for herself in Shadesmar. Adolin and Yanagon having to deal with like Azimir being the last place to have sunlight on the whole planet. I don't think any of this is enough to carry its own book.
Exactly.
Or like worth not doing a chapter, not doing a time skip over. But I do wish Brandon was willing to do like a novella that sort of bridges this gap through the time skip that sort of deals with that.
Sure.
My dream Stormlight novella is like Gavinor, like seeing all those major changes to characters' lives through Gavinor's eyes, but I don't know if Brandon is, interested in doing that even.
Maybe eventually.
Yeah. There are pros and cons to the time skip. That like there is valid, interesting topics to discuss happening right after the end of Wind and Truth.
Sure.
For the story as a whole, we need to get to a point. So it's like the pros to like not doing the time skip don't outweigh the pros to doing the time skip. It's not that like, oh, like figuring out in-person parenting is inherently more interesting. It's differently interesting. Cost benefit analysis of like, we just need to do the time skip. There's still some interesting, we are legitimately losing out on interesting topics, but it's not worth not doing the time skip.
I agree.
Sure.
And like, I think in an ideal world, what I would want to see is like, I wouldn't even go for a novella. I would say like a series of interludes. Something between like an interlude and like these little epilogue sequences that we got from all of the characters, little like scenes from each character that show us how they're dealing with like the immediate aftermath of the Contest of Champions, and then how they are starting on the path that's going to take them to book 6.
Yeah, I do hope that this is related to that. I do hope that Brandon is open to messing with the format of a Stormlight book a little bit in terms of having like giving himself room to do this kind of stuff if he wants to, of like maybe having multiple flashback characters in one book, even if it's just for book 6.
Well, I mean, 4 had Van Lee and Eshna, yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like a flashback, like an interlude or a flashback that's Gavinor doing something in Earthiru, and then another one that's Shallan doing something in Shadesmar. It's like they're not related at all. Just to like, if he feels the need to do that, I hope that he's willing to sort of break the formula a little bit to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that dealing with this time skip is going to be a delicate thing.
Yeah. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just know, like, the format as it exists was very much intentional to avoid bloat of shout out to the Wheel of Time, where by the end there's 50 million viewpoint characters.
Yeah.
Kind of like having these restrictions that he has to play within, like, is kind of an implicit promise of like, but like there are instances like Bentley and Eshni were close enough that like they count as one flashback sequence. Like, so like there is some flexibility there, but like I wouldn't want like 2 totally disconnected flashback sequences in the same book.
And I think to Adam's point, I maybe we can just get away with, book 6 has an interlude that is, a Gavinor interlude or whatever. It just takes place in the past. And so it is still an interlude.
That's
it's not a full flashback sequence.
Yeah.
But it's hey, here's a little thing that is not happening on the other side of the world. It is happening 5 years ago or whatever.
I will also say I'm totally down for 2 completely disconnected flashback sequences in the same book that at the end you find out were connected all along.
Well,
That
yeah,
would be
that's
cool.
that's always good stuff.
That's always good stuff.
Um,
It definitely will be very challenging to balance all these priorities in the back path. So good luck with that, Brandon.
Yeah.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes, I guess. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we get to who's that Cosmere character?
Shout out to the music spren scene where we see Sureblood's music spren.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
good.
That raises a whole bunch of questions for me on Rishadium mechanics that we're not going to get into.
Nope.
We'll add Rishadium to the list of just
Yeah. But like it hurt. It was so good.
I like
That's very
that.
sweet.
Yeah, a good setup for a certain level of melancholy for the for the book.
Melancholy, but also closure in a way, right? One thing that I wanted to talk about very early on in the episode, and there was never an opportunity for that.
Yeah.
And there's certainly not enough time for us to get into that. But it was kind of the idea of like, well, Adolin started off as being the like one unpowered individual in a world of powered individuals, and like he had this like little slump in the middle of the first arc of 5 books where he very literally said that. It was like, what is my place in the world where everyone is like these superpowers? And now he's kind of gone back the other way. Like, he is one of the very few powered individuals in the world, because like being able to summon and dismiss Plate and Blade well, first of all, having Plate and Blade is super rare. Being able to summon and dismiss Plate and Blade is even more rare. And like, in a way, he is in a better place than all of the Radiants in Urithiru who are stuck in Urithiru and cannot do jack from there. So like, there's an interesting like, and also, yes, he lost a leg, but also he got the most advanced prosthetic that can ever exist.
Yep.
So that diminishes that handicap a little bit, a lot, really. And so it's interesting that like that inciting. I mean, it's not even like an inciting thing, but like it was a big part of his character arc, learning and dealing and learning how to deal with the fact that he's not a Radiant in a world of Radiance. And now that's just not a factor, really.
I think I'm totally fine with this because ultimately he cannot command the surges, right? Like, I think back half, I do feel like on the Odium Retribution side, magic is going to be very prominent. And so I still think we're going to get a bit of that where if he's fighting Fused, for example, I mean, yeah, he's got Plate and Blade. That's good. Better than a lot of other things. But, if a bunch of Fused are attacking and flying above him, like that's going to be problematic, right? So I still think we're going to get that.
Radiants aren't gone. Like, they're in a bad situation right now, but like, they're gonna figure out some sort of solution.
Yeah, presumably.
Like, Radiants like are still gonna come back and like be like a major force that's more powerful than him. It's just now like he's top dog right now.
And the gap has certainly lessened between
marginally, yeah.
Debatable, but okay.
I just know that there are lots of people who like did not want Adolin to be like a traditional Knights Radiant, and so I think this was a very cool way. I think it would have just been a bummer for him to not be able to have Plate and Blade, and so like this was a cool way to pay off the Maya stuff while not making him a Radiant, because that doesn't really fit with his character. So I think like overall, I think the package works pretty well for me.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to decide if the plate stuff is a little bit too much for me. Like, I was very much on board with him, like, being more than your average shard bearer because of his connection with Maya. And I don't know if his ability to command his shards to the extent that he's able to is too far.
mechanically or thematically?
Thematically.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like he has command of them, but compared to what a Radiant can do, it's like a more grounded version of Plate and Blade. Because like Maya can like do a little bit of like extending the length of the blade, but I don't.
But that's debatable right now, right? Because remember, in like he is able to partially summon his plate, with which he has less of a connection than Maya, to act as a leg for him.
Mhm.
And so I think
That's
if he's
true.
able to extend that much control to his less controlled, less bonded shard, then surely Maya functions like a sprint blade at this
Yeah.
stage.
Well, I mean, that's true, but also shard plate in its like base form already acts as a foot. At least part of the shard plate does. So this is like if the shard, like if I don't think that he could turn Maya into a spear. I don't think he could turn his shard plate into like some random construction that wasn't related to being like body parts.
I think that might be an interesting question for me to ask Brandon. I mean, like, not for me to ask, but like, I find interest in the question of, can Adolin summon Maya as anything other than a sword?
Yeah. I would certainly hope he couldn't.
I think open question. I put it on the unoathed mechanics list for us to talk about, guys.
If we're doing like final thoughts,
We're doing
still,
final thoughts.
yeah, I will just say shout out, because we didn't mention that either. His armor strand going like sir.
Oh, it's great. It's so
They are
good.
adorable, and I love them, and I like how they like parallel the Shallan armor strand.
Yes.
Yes, they have matching armor strand. That's cute.
Yeah. And then isn't Kaladin's armor strand like stoically silent or something?
They are stoically silent and brooding the entire time.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's like everyone gets a matching Pokemon.
It is so great that Adolin's connection, he just yeets the plate onto himself from Abidi. That is a great moment.
So yoink. Yeah, I guess my clothing thoughts would be, I thought that specific scene where he's fighting Abidi with a candlestick was like completely jumped the shark
in the throne
for me. Yeah. But that scene where he took back the shard plate was fun, very fun.
Yeah.
I can understand how you would find that entire sequence to be ridiculous, for sure. I can't fault anyone who believes that.
It does have a bit of like the vibe of those old adventure movies where like you're fighting pirates on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which is on fire. Like, there is like the scene of like, because like Abidi throws him at a pillar, and like the room is dark at this point, and like, as always, Brandon does the cinematic fight scene really, really well, because like you can see the moment of like the pillar breaks and there's like dust and debris everywhere and you can't see anything, and I can see the camera like showing a glowing red light just surfacing from the dust and debris, and plated Adolin steps out. Like that's top tier stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, Pegleg Adolin fighting. Yeah, sure. Fair point. Anyway, we really got to go to Who's That Cosmere character, so that's what we're gonna do.
It's Adolin's plate sprint.
This character is from Rasarr.
Menace, Tien,
Tom,
Raise,
Void in drag on a horse. It's time for Who's That Cosmere character. Caw.
Welcome to Who's That Cosmere Character, the game show where you send 5 clues in a character to wtcc at 17shard.com. I read each clue aloud, and after each clue, these guys have a chance to guess who's that Cosmere character. Let's begin. I didn't ask Grace for regular ones, so you're getting priority ones, which is good because there's a lot of them. Sorry if you submitted priority things on Patreon, but
that's what the priority is for.
Yep, that's right. This one is sent by Bean the Boy 12, who teases me saying that I had trouble reading it once, so separate words should help. So I appreciate that. I did remember your name. Cool. Clue 1. This character has traveled.
How terribly specific.
Kai-Ein.
It is not Kai-Ein.
Felt.
Spook.
It is not Felt. It's not Spook.
Azure.
It's not Azure. All right, great. Next clue. Clue 2. Next clue? You say clue 2. What am I doing? This character works with a hypocrite.
Oh, how is it not felt?
Oh, yeah, how is it not felt?
Axendwith.
It's not Axendwith.
Vin.
It's not Vin.
Jules.
It's not Jules.
I'm gonna go with another Atlantis character, Royal.
It's not Royal. Clue 3. This character has been an ethnic minority.
Has
been.
been?
Yeah, that's
Like,
apparently
did it
what they said.
become
Is it Hoyd?
It's not Hoyd.
Eshonai?
It's not Eshonai. That's pretty funny, actually.
I'm still on the Warbreaker train.
I didn't fact check this clue at all, so I'm just taking Bean the Boy 12 at their word here. His word? Boy? Yeah.
You know what? I'm gonna guess Vo, the first return.
No, but I like that. I appreciate the hustle.
He traveled across the
the Bright
the
Sea.
inner sea.
Yeah, Inner Sea or Bright Sea. It's true.
Yeah. I'll stick with Elantris, Shootin.
It is not Shootin. Clue 4. There's more WoB canon lore for this character than there is book canon.
Oh, baby.
Is it Human the Kolos?
It's not Human the Kolos. Do annotations count as WoBs?
They're on the arcade.
I believe in my discussion of canonicity, I did place them under Bruce Brandon.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay. Is it Rashek?
It is not Rashek.
No, there's...
I appreciate that, though. Yeah. Get the Lord Ruler's kids in here.
I don't think we're going to guess this one, but I think it's going to be a fun one.
Okay, so it's traveled, works with a hypocrite,
Yes.
ethnic minority,
Yes.
and
Former
more
ethnic
WoB
minority, mind you.
Well, yeah, has been an ethnic
Yeah,
minority.
has been.
Which, how much do you want to read into that?
I really should probably fact check what that means in this context.
Well, I think that works with has traveled. Like at one point, they were in a place where they were a minority.
Oh, and maybe they went back home or something.
Vice versa.
Mm.
Yeah. Or they weren't and then they were. So.
Chris.
It's not Chris.
Kaladin.
This is not Kaladin. Sorry, I do need to fact check this
Okay.
last one.
In hindsight, Kaladin did not make sense with the WoB thing.
Yeah, that would be wild.
I think I know who it is, but I don't know their name. Can I make a guess?
Message me a description and I'll message you back with the name.
Yeah, I mean we have historically allowed guesses that were like descriptive instead of names.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can I guess without
But I wanna
hearing the fifth clue?
Sure.
Okay. Is it the old blood member of Dalinar's crew with
Taleb?
the tattoo? Yeah, Taleb.
Man, when are we gonna get some old blood lore, guys? I need flashbacks for old blood lore.
Fun fact, I was going to bring up Taleb earlier in the episode when we talked about archery being non-gendered.
Nice.
Okay, but
I'll
is
take it. It's not Taleb.
It's not Taleb.
Okay.
All right, clue 5.
He was the only other guy I could think of who worked with Dalinar.
Clue 5, which I cannot verify at this stage. So
That's promising.
That's promising. This character's life was saved by ghosts.
Oh god, it's some Shadows for Silence character, isn't it?
But no one gets saved by...
True. Or maybe it's a Sunlit character then.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, if you count like the fabricator on Beacon as, Zelian? No, I'm not. No. I'm not guessing Zelian.
Okay.
Because
You guessed Zelian. You can't take it back.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
Good. No, the hypocrite thing doesn't work with Zelian.
No.
Man, I had like an idea, but then I remembered that this is a character that specifically does not travel.
Yes, I can verify this character has traveled for sure. That I know for a fact.
So can I just say without this being actually my guess?
Sure.
Because like I was thinking like Frost, but then I remembered like Frost's defining feature is like he does
Sure.
not leave Yolen.
Sure.
Hey,
sure.
he shows up in the Traveler.
Isn't that on Yolen?
Yeah, but the Traveler's
Yeah.
Void, right?
It's somewhere
why I
with
guess-
Fane life. So we hope it's
I see what you're saying. Okay, cool. Yeah. I just assumed that Frost lives in Silverlight, and so he traveled to Yolen at that point, but
No, I always assumed he just kind of stuck around on Yolen.
yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna guess Theopolis something or
nice.
other as the only
It's the only
character
Shadows for Silence character that you can remember.
that I
I
can think of.
like that a lot, but it's not him.
Other characters include Red and William Ann.
You know what? I'm just gonna go guess Silence.
It's not Silence.
I think that's
There
everyone.
was only 2 red characters named Red in the Cosmere.
3. Scadrio, Red.
It doesn't make sense with the warp thing.
I'm really trying
that's
to
a tricky clue, isn't it?
I'm really trying to figure out how the ghosts make sense. But
we all guessed. So
All
tell
right.
us the answer and we can help you.
the answer is Mab, the kitchen chef from Warbreaker.
Wow. She travels?
She traveled
she-
from Idris to Hollindren.
Yeah,
And that's why she
was a
was
big
an
time
ethnic
courtesan.
minority. Yeah.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
the Wobs are in fact annotations. So there you go.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
what's with the ghosts then?
I
have
do
no
not
idea.
know. Being the boy 12, you have some explaining to do.
I mean, it's got to be some returned thing,
but it's
right?
not.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of that whatsoever.
Well, okay. I am
Or maybe
confused and
lifeless
intrigued.
thing.
I mean, she was a
Oh.
drab. She was a drab, and she found it hard to get work after being.
How
a
is the
drab.
5th clue phrased?
This
Has been helped
character's
by ghosts.
life was saved by ghosts.
I could
Like-
maybe I do not like this interpretation that like her life was saved by Vasher giving over the commands to like stop to stop the lifeless.
Mm.
For his
And like
phantom.
he's a cognitive shadow, which is technically a ghost.
I was thinking maybe because she like after immigrating, she sold her breath to the return,
Yes.
like the court of gods, and like that. With the money, she was able to. I don't know. Yeah,
I think
tell
maybe
us
something to do
being the
with,
boy 12.
Khaled's phantoms, I would guess. That's my.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Khaled's phantoms. Phantoms are ghosts.
Even if I knew that that's what that clue was referring to, there's no way in a million years I would have come up with
No.
Mab the chef.
No. But I like the has been a ethnic minority because that is true. Was
Yeah.
previously and
Yeah.
is not now.
Yeah.
All right, this next one is by Silent Echo. Clue 1. This character participated in a large-scale migration.
Diel, the one from the Wind and Truth Interlude.
Oh, nice! It's not. It's not them.
Yeah.
When is
I mean,
this
I-
from?
This is from March of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm doing a fresh
I genuinely
one.
had a moment of like March hasn't arrived yet, and I don't.
Oh,
like
no,
that.
I'm
same.
sorry to say it is April currently. I'm so sorry.
Is it Jezreel?
It's not Jezreen. I
Oh.
mean, there you go. You know,
My brain immediately went to the Eerie Alley, but the Ashenites are also a great.
good. It's good.
Hey, I have a brand I need to maintain.
Okay.
So, Zelian.
It's not Zelian. I mean,
Damn
Sure.
it. 2 for 2, it didn't work.
if you keep guessing Zellion enough, you'll get one of the two Zellions.
Eventually. Both times I guessed the OG was Alien too.
Yeah, you did.
Not that it mattered, but in my head, that's the character I was guessing.
Trying to think of migrations in the Cosmere that aren't the Iriali or the Ashenites.
Sure.
I'm gonna go back to my Elentius roots, King Reoshem.
That's some mob lore. Get that Badali jewelry blog post here, baby. It's not King Reoshem, I'm so sorry to say. But that is very
If
funny.
you think about it, if a single sleepless goes from Rasarr to Kamashi, that's technically a lot of hordlings.
That is true.
So is that large scale?
If you're just one, if it's one sort of bug.
How do you define a large scale migration, right?
You'll have to ask Silent Echo. I'm not going to confirm or deny that.
Is it?
Clue 2. This character has gained access to investiture in multiple ways.
Hoyd?
It's not Hoyd. I mean, there you go, right?
Hey,
I mean, we had to get the
You
obvious
got- you
out of
gotta
the way.
get
you
that
saw
out,
you
right?
saw target.
Is this Batar?
It's not Batar.
Is this
Interesting.
nail?
It's not Nail. Guess every herald, guys. Let's go.
Large scale migration.
Mhm.
I think that's a highly technical thing, but I want to go with Rashek.
It's not Rashek. Clue 3. People have had a tendency to not take this character seriously.
Oh.
Immediate disappointment from Ian.
Oh, now I
Over
need
the
to
course of,
remember the
like-
name.
Oh,
Half a
Lopin.
second.
Lopin is your guess?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not Lopin.
Yim.
It's not Yim. I think he specifically didn't participate in the large migration because he got murdered.
I am. Yeah, that's the thing that I keep struggling because I keep wanting to guess Cantico characters and
Sure.
none of them actually did the migration.
I mean, they
Those
migrate
counts.
around the planet every day.
Yeah, which that's
That's more
I
of a
mean, the
commute,
planet's
honestly.
not that big. Is that really a
That's
large
more of a
scale
commute, yeah.
migration?
but it is a large scale. Like the entire world does it.
Yeah, but what if the world's really small?
Yeah, I
And
feel like
again,
there are
how do
probably
you
more
think-
people.
100% of the world is still 100% if the world
Yeah,
is small.
how do you?
I feel like
What
there are
is
probably more
large?
people driving on
I mean,
the
scale
highway
is
in Los
relative.
Angeles than there are who live on Canticle.
What is large?
Is it number of individuals? Is it the size of those
You know?
individuals? Is it the percentage of the population? Is it the per capita?
What does it mean to be large?
Okay, you know what? I'm going to guess by description because the name is escaping me.
Okay, that's
The
acceptable.
sleepless who lives on Komashi.
Oh, okay, sure.
Masaka?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's not.
Yeah, Masaka.
It's not that.
Oh, is it Nas?
It's not Nas. Clue 4. This character has been known by different names at different times.
Is it Bayon?
It's not Bayon. That's good.
What if it's not a human? Can you give me the clues again?
Sure, this character participated in a large-scale migration. This character has gained access to investiture in multiple ways. People have had a tendency to not take this character seriously. And this character has been known by different names at different times.
I really wanted to guess Ox, but it doesn't work.
Did we guess Yesrian?
I believe
we
Yesrian
all-
was
okay.
one of the heralds you've guessed, yes. There's still more heralds to do, of course.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Ishar.
Not Ashar.
Okay, this is like a very silly guess, but is it Melan?
It's not Milan. I think I can count. Yeah. I don't think that's as silly as you think.
I guess like mostly I think it's silly because like not taken seriously. Like Melan doesn't usually get like, a bad
sure.
rep.
Sure.
It's not usually taken seriously, or just not.
People have had a
Okay.
tendency to not take this character seriously.
Dent.
It's not Death. All right, clue 5. This character has often spoken in a way that baffles others.
Is it Galadon?
It's not Galadon.
I'm not even going to think whether Spook makes sense. I'm going to guess Spook.
It is Spook.
Based on one clue.
Large scale migration. Oh, he went to. Wait,
They say the Catasandra counts for a large-scale migration. that they were all
I
moved.
vehemently disagree.
Okay, well you can bring it up with Silent Echo. I do think they definitely gained investiture in multiple ways. We got that covered.
Yep,
that one's covered. So yeah, migration,
Burst, Stabbin, and divine intercession.
yeah, yep, and tended to not take him seriously, and different names, different times. That I think that.
Yep.
I do agree. The migration one's a little, interpretive.
I mean, the planet migrated around them. I don't think they were doing much migrating.
I agree.
Well,
But once again,
they shifted around the chambers. I guess.
In their inertial reference frame, was it a migration?
They were all migrated.
Yeah.
Can I just fact check myself? Is Galadon the Elantrian who is with the 17th shard hunting for void?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna guess Vo the first returned, and then you got the not taken seriously one, and I'm like, no.
I also guessed Vo like on Clue 2.
Yeah, but you did it for the other one.
That was the last one.
Yeah.
That was in this one.
Where's our Vo the first returned lore? I know we did an episode on this. No, we did that already. Though I did earlier want to make a physics joke in the episode where in quantum mechanics, the oaths are quantized, so you get discrete levels, but promises are continuous.
So what I was driving towards was discrete versus continuous in the context of like Riemann sums and integrals and things like that.
Oh, I'm with you. Yeah. We've lost most of our viewers here, so let's wrap this up. You can find us on 17jar.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. We have a Discord server with lots of people. You can support our Patreon for as little as $1. And we do cool art commissions that we will use. We will commission them with your money and also do other things like fund us existing.
Buy this thing.
Yes, like that, which prevents Argent from peaking, which is great success. Amazing. No peaking at all. 10 out of 10. And we post on Blue Sky and stuff, and so you can hit like and subscribe. Leave a super thanks if you want, even. Wow. And we'll see you all next time for something else. I don't know what. Maybe Unoathed mechanics? Maybe something else. I don't know.
Put your suggestions in the comments below.
Yeah. And do you remember
what do you want to hear about?
Yeah. What do you want to hear about? What episodes should we do? Because what are we doing here, guys? We got to make it to Ember Dark, and then we got to make it to Ghost Blood Swan. The real problem is that there's a lot of Wind and Truth episodes that I would say are contentious, and we're avoiding them for now.
I would call them difficult more so than contentious.
Sure, they're difficult, and it requires preparation, which many times our outline is made the night before the episode. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll see you next time.
Ta-ta.
Okay.
Ta.